be an issue with Rumble. Yeah. I'll just remove Rumble. Figure it out later. Yeah, the bottom portion I do. So you're good. Yeah. Now go back to the top. Go back up to the top. Where it says other names, put NA in that slot. For some reason, it has to have something in that slot.
Other names?
Yeah, the top right.
Oh, okay. Because you said put what?
NA, N/A. Oh, got a question mark there. Same thing for apartment number. For some reason, we got to have something in those blanks. I don't know why. They just said that.
Apartment number.
We live. Let's get some going here.
And that's going to be part of the discussions I have with world leaders while I'm here in Munich, and we will compete, and that has not changed.
This is what I say, by the way, just pause it. This is what I mean when I say this bitch says nothing. She just said we will align with our allies. You might as well say we will ally with our allies. That's what it means to be an ally. Like what is it? Like she just said, like it's just what she focuses
Now,
on.
yeah. I mean, you don't have to put zeros in there if you leave it blank. It's the same. If you're just claiming yourself,
we will be friends
you can just leave it blank. Just make sure scroll up a little bit.
That's my
Yeah, you check single. Okay, that's fine. Go down.
Aren't even accepting
Step 5. You can just check that box to sign it, and you're good to go.
We had a hotline. Isn't there a real risk of miscalculation of an accident?
Well, first of all, we do maintain diplomatic communication.
But not military to military.
How was your drive?
It says, are you an new employee? You want me to check?
Yes, and then just put today's date. You don't have to put your license number on there. I don't know why it even asks.
And hope that the Chinese do as well.
The Chinese would have to do it as well in order.
I don't even know why they asked the question about new employee.
That makes zero sense.
Like that's just her. Like, your militaries aren't even communicating with each other, and she's like, yeah, and we realize how important.
Okay, now back up.
They do as well.
If you're claiming just yourself for state as well, under number 6, put a 1 there.
Like, how does Andrea Mitchell not at a certain point? Like, I don't even. I mean, obviously she's a hack. Fucking, this is Alan Greenspan's wife. Like, but
really,
yeah, Alan Green. Yeah,
It looks good, man. Go down.
Greenspan every
Finish.
night. Look at that woman. This interviewing Kamala Harris is the most exciting thing.
All right, see where it says pending review? It just means you have to do my portion of that, so you're good.
When you you imagine it would
As long as
just,
it doesn't say
fade
input.
away at your
So this is where you'll go
screen?
to. You can go, like I said, go to this from your phone. This is where you'll click on pay history. That's where your check stubs will be listed. And then at the end of the year, you'll be able to obtain your W-2 on here as well.
Having
You won't even have to wait for it to come in the mail.
communicating with
Yeah.
you.
So it's it just makes it easy. But yeah, if you ever need pull up your check stubs or anything like that, a lot of times the check stubs are available by like Thursday, the day before you get paid, so you'll be able to see it.
But she just has to sit
All right.
there and go
I'm
like,
just gonna log you out
please
there.
keep talking to me. So
All right, let's get you over to the gray table there.
Please,
So,
please
front
draw
back
this
on
out
this.
longer.
But at this point, is there a risk of miscalculation of an accident?
There is always a way to improve relationships when we have direct lines of communication. That is why President Joe Biden spoke directly with President Xi, because on many occasions.
Just say he spoke to him. Why do you always have to say spoke directly to him? It's like when people say, like, why do they always add these adjectives?
Careful, there's lots of ice up
You
here.
know, it's like when people say, it's like, that was my lived experience. And you're like, the word experience covers that.
Well,
Like, you don't have to say, like, it's like, that was my experience. Like, were you alive at the time? Or were you, it was your lived experience. Like, what is it? Just spoke directly to him. Who else? That's what spoke to him means.
lived experience is helpful because then they're letting you know before they tell you the next thing that it's bullshit. They're just letting you know right away. Yeah. Like, hi, I have something that is not relevant for this conversation.
And most
It's none of their
recently
business.
in Bali, it was when I spoke directly with President Xi when I was in Bangkok for several weeks.
I mean, you gave us a copy of it. It's the same number as an ID number, so I
And then we make America's
don't know why they keep asking for it over and over again.
We made America's position clear about that balloon when we shot it down.
You know what I think might be happening here? Do you remember in Super Troopers where they have a dare about how many times he can say meow
You guys are nuts.
after he pulls someone over?
You might have cracked this code, Rob. That might be it.
It could be we're just being fucked with, and they tell her before an interview, all right, if you can say directly over 20 times.
Because I swear, as I'm watching this, I do feel like turning to you and going, I'm freaking out, man. Like, I do just kind of feel that Super Troopers vibe. All right. You might have nailed it. All right, guys, let's take a quick moment and thank our sponsor for today's show, which is Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. I don't know if you're like me and you waste money.
Screw that. Let's check out DE News. Oh, I see where Manny's at. Done with that portion? All right, just give me a second. Yeah, one more thing. So that's the basics. Everything you've done so far has been for me. Okay, this is for them. All right, this kind of goes into the food safety portion. So we'll still fill it. No, I asked for it to do something. That is one of the requirements. Leaves are fine. No sweat stove or anything like that. Nothing with holes in it that can be accomplished. The top is just plain white tissue. All right. This you get to keep. That last page that you signed, you don't have to do it. Okay, well, now you have it. All right. Let's start the phone number stuff. Get the actual address of the facility on it. All right. Basically, we have to go through this with everybody at Food and Drug Administration parts. Okay, so that's where you keep. You'll use that to fill out this portion. Oh, got the wrong one. Same thing. There we go. All right. This we have to keep on file for the Food and Drug Administration. Whenever they come by and audit us, we have to have one of these on everybody, including me. I don't. On this page, it's just a signature. Correct, sign initial, just the top line. Okay. Maybe one time they did it as a group or something like that, but I think it's a good idea for everybody to see who those signatures. This page here is just an acknowledgement that you received this and that you've done all the rules. Versus employee, print, sign, date. So, all right, I do the bottom there versus training. This page, read those rules, sign, date, initials. Once again, I do the bottom versus training. And then there's some multiple choice questions. All the answers are in there, but if you can't find it, just ask me. Okay? The way it works is it's not a pass-fail thing. If you miss anything you miss, I have to go over with you to make sure you understand what the right answer is. So if you can't find it, I'm gonna tell you, but I'm gonna make sure you understand why. Okay? That's fine. Take your time. You have any questions at all when you're going through it, just ask. All right. Believe me, nobody gets them all right. So. Even me the first time. Well, because one of them is kind of a trick question. All right, let me switch over to him. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking to the computer. My wife's talking to me on here. Sorry? That's my portion. No. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, Doug.
Wish I could take you guys live. Can't. There's no signal.
He's got his scanner going too.
Okay, I'm checking this one. Beer. They didn't have the beer over there. He drinks anything. I can get him any beer he wants. I'll get him what he wants. Drink fucking mouthwash.
Sheets.
Haven't had a real cig in a month. Oh, that's good. Save you some money, right? 1237. If you guys hear an address, let me know. Put the address in the chat. I'm trying to get my list done first and then go chasing down. What's up?
416, go ahead. Call on Vail Pass. Break.
Ooh, Vail Pass. That's way up there.
Call, number 1.
10,000 feet. Oh, do these guys even have beer?
Go ahead. I'll just be on last.
Yeah, see, he drinks this. He drinks this. He drinks natural ice 15 pack. Not a lot of people have these, so I have to go find it.
Okay, so 3.
Hey, look at that camera. That's a big phone you got there, sir. You're like this.
Yeah.
You're like, hello.
Like the next step up on the old brick.
Yeah. Good. Scan it? You scan it with that? Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
It scanned closer last time. There you go.
Unfortunately, 14 on the blind running your plate.
I'm trolling him in his.
Take hundreds.
Silver color.
All right, there you go.
Time's coming
Get a
down.
receipt.
It's gone down 2 degrees since I've been here. Yeah.
I got one.
There's accidents. I'm listening to the scanner on my computer here, and there's accident from the high school.
No, it's good. I gotta go. I'm in a hurry. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Maybe next
Nobody's
time.
hurt though. Just some
All right,
fender
got the
benders.
beer.
People don't know how to drive in this ice.
Pretzels.
I'm literally doing like 50 on I-75.
Potatoes. Coors
People
Light.
flying by me. I'm like, okay, I'll see you in the ditch in a bit.
That's all we need. We're ready to.
Been driving in this crap for 35
fight the
years.
storm. This is the storm of the century coming in. Snow tortoise? Dang, hit a rock with our vehicle. Now we gotta go save the cops. Charlie. Going any slower, dude? From Utah. Utah drivers.
Permitted means allowed. What is the question? No, it's the one about the boots. They prefer that you not wear your boots to and from work for contamination reasons. I mean, how well they enforce that, you'll find out. But that's the general rule. There's a locker room and stuff there too to change into.
This guy's like somewhere in town right out of here. Damn guy got in here. Yeah.
Manny's going in and out here, so let's go back over here.
Time fucking as soon as you get on Rogan, everyone talks to you like I'm just the booker for the show. Like I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll just do the next Rogan episode at Scott Horton's house and just see like what I believe if there's anything. If
Jerry?
you think like, hey, it'd be a good idea to bring Scott Horton on Rogan.
Okay, good. You looking for work?
I have also had that thought. So like, it's not.
Yep, down in
But I don't know.
Temperance.
We'll see what happens.
Yep,
Who's next?
yeah. We do
Hi,
have a spot
Dave.
there.
I know Twitter's not the real world, but I've run into a lot of libertarians who seem
Okay, let me pull that up for you. All right.
crazy.
Are you a forklift driver?
The ultimate bad guys in the U.S. did nothing wrong. How do I get through to those people?
They do. Well, no, they do. They have operator positions too.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind
So
of
operators,
yeah, well,
B
yeah.
crew
So
or C
I
crew
think
operators
that,
available. C crew starts at
there's been-
1570.
Okay, basically, before
And then they also have $1.50 an hour
Say this
perfect
the right way.
attendance bonus.
So before COVID,
The B crew goes from
there was
the B
always
crew goes.
about,
It's
like,
Wednesday
there's
through.
two-
Let me make sure.
There's almost like
no,
two
that's C crew.
different
C crew. I'm
camps,
sorry.
broadly speaking.
C crew is same thing. 1570. And then the C crew is kind of like a split shift. It's Monday and Tuesday, 5 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. Through 10-hour shifts. And then Friday and Saturday is 5:30 a.m. to
That's kind of
4
how I
p.m.
felt about it. Like it was like
You have your
but
nights
it was
off on
like
the
we're
weekend.
all libertarians. There's the one more principled, pure camp, which is what I fall into, and then there's a little bit of the more watered down camp, which they're still good on a lot of shit, but they're not like as good as the guys that I like. But after watching COVID, and the response to COVID, particularly like the whole
Okay, C crew is
vaccine regime and all of that.
Make sure I'm
watching
reading it
how
right for you.
soft
Okay,
they
Monday and Tuesday,
really
5
made
p.m.
me
to
go,
3:30
"Hey,
a.m.
you know, I don't even think we're two different like camps within the same
5
umbrella.
p.m.
I think probably
to
we're just
to
different.
3:30 a.m.
Like we're probably just not even really in the same. And if
And
it
then
when
Friday and
it's
Saturday,
lockdowns, like
5:30
when the
a.m.
government
to
is
4
literally
p.m.
saying you cannot go to work, that's a crime now to go to work. Or the government saying if you don't get the vaccine,
Yes.
you lose your job, or you can't go to a
10-hour
restaurant,
shifts.
as was true in most major cities.
Yep.
around the
Yeah,
country.
with break and lunch and
Like
stuff.
if
Yeah.
they're not opposed to that, I don't
No,
really
no,
care
no.
if
And
you're
like I said, they will do
to
overtime
me, it's like you're not this.
from
We're
time to
not the
time,
same.
and as long as you're
And
there for
I
the
gotta
scheduled
say,
days,
like
it's an extra $1.50 an hour.
I like someone like let's say Ron DeSantis,
$1.50 an hour
or
perfect
someone in
attendance
that,
bonus they
someone
have
who
there
likes him, who certainly is not a libertarian and certainly did some
every week.
not technically libertarian things.
Yeah, if
like
you have
banning
if you have perfect
private
attendance that
businesses
week, you
from
get that
being allowed
bonus.
to have
So every hour you
something
work that
like
week
that.
is an extra
But
$1.50.
was against lockdowns and against at least.
And then if you
some
don't, if something happens the next week, you miss a day, you were sick, whatnot, you'll still get your regular rate.
I'm more on that
You just won't
guy's
get the bonus
team than
that
I
week, and
am
it
on a
resets every
libertarian
week.
who's going to claim to defend vaccine mandates. So like that's like it's like I don't know exactly how you define where these lines are, and
Right.
I feel similarly that we see to say that. You know, you see like these people who call themselves libertarians who will be like,
Yep.
NATO is a defensive alliance or something like that.
There is no.
A defensive alliance.
Well, that's for
Like,
operator
war in
positions.
Libya.
That's
Like, yeah.
all they have available right
Libya
now is
attacked
secret.
Europe, evidently, and NATO just had to defend
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Or they'll say these things like I saw one libertarian the other day say that NATO was
That's
NATO
B
was a
crew.
voluntary.
It's one of those,
alliance.
but you have to have experience,
Like
or they
voluntary.
don't do any training there.
Like in what it's funded by tax dollars. Like what do you like?
Yeah, yeah.
So like people like
Well, no,
that
there's
would
no
go,
such thing really as a
it's
certificate.
just so
Every
obvious
job
that
site
we,
does their own
the
certification.
United States and the West and NATO
But yeah.
provoked this entire conflict for 30 years.
Experience?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And like and it's not even just libertarians.
Okay.
who say
Well,
that.
I
It's
mean,
like
if you have
all of the
experience, I mean,
wisest
you can
people
go
in the
there,
foreign
and
policy
now that's B crew, and that's the
so
straight
if you don't,
that's
if you
straight
don't
nights.
see
It's
that,
Wednesday
and
through
you see, like,
Saturday,
America flirting
5
with this
p.m. to
nuclear
3:30
war,
a.m.
and then you see, we had another video. We didn't play it today, but of Kamala
Saturday.
Harris saying that she's
Yep.
determined that Russia committed war crimes.
5 p.m. to 3:30
And you're
a.m.
like, come on, man, you're gonna say that the U.S. government, the most war hungry government in the world, is calling other people out for
Bravo.
war
Yep.
crimes, and not like you're just kind of cheering on that narrative. That you could call yourself whatever you want to. I hate when people argue like you're not a real libertarian. Maybe you're.
Well,
the real
I can get you
libertarian,
interviewed
whatever we
next
are,
week.
We're not the same thing. Like I'm not even like particularly interested in convincing those people. I'd rather just make the argument.
Yeah, in fact they do the interviews on Wednesday, so I'd have to set you up for the next Wednesday.
In essence, I spent all that time to say fuck those guys.
Anytime between now and actually, I have to have your name submitted by Monday evening.
top.
So if you want to come by Monday
So when you're
during
on
the
the
day,
debate stage with Donald Trump,
the office
what
doesn't open
three
till 2
events
p.m. because I'm
policies
covering one of our
will you
other
take
offices
into
down in Toledo at night. But 2 p.m.
Also,
Monday.
is China a threat? That you don't have to answer that one, but the first three I'm most concerned about.
So I'm sorry, I didn't.
The question
catch
was
the end
when
of
you're
that.
debating Donald Trump on the debate stage and you want to attack the right from the right.
Or you can come
what
by
are the
tomorrow. I
key
mean, I
issues
can
to
get you
attack
set up,
Donald
but
Trump on the
I
right?
won't submit your name until
I
next
mean,
Monday.
like the top three, I don't know.
All right,
But
that's perfect.
the
Just
number
make sure
one is the
you don't know where
entire
this office
like
is.
the entire handling of COVID. Just like like I feel like
Okay,
the way to
yeah,
attack
it's on there.
Donald Trump
Yeah,
would
317.
almost be like to compliment him
Yep.
to death.
The old Flour Mill
And
building.
then just like you'd be like, Donald Trump, you're so tremendous and terrific, and you've got such giant hands.
2 p.m.
But yet you still declared a state of emergency
All right.
as soon as COVID came out. And then
Yeah, have a good
thing
weekend.
To attack him for is like his appointments, which include like
What?
Fauci.
The ones you got questions on? Go ahead.
All of 2020. That is 100% Donald Trump's fault.
I'll check it right now with
All
you.
his
That way
supporters try to make
If there's any issues,
excuses
we
for
can do
him.
it. I'll do my
They all
portion
try
of
to
it
make
while we go through it.
excuses for him for that. Like there was anything. But
Yeah,
the truth is that
you got the last one. I got to bring another case out of the car
we were hearing
before they
from
explode and
Fauci
get all over
every
the inside of
single
my
day,
car.
solely because he was appointed by Donald Trump to head that task force. That's it. Donald Trump could have at any moment, he could have gone to Rand Paul, who he was friends with. He could have gone to Thomas Massey, who he was kind of friends with. He could have gone to any of them and said, hey, give me a good epidemiologist. someone really accredited who I can put up here and like who's going to be reasonable. But he didn't. He just went with the fucking the NIH guy and just let him up there for the whole time. That alone, you don't even need two other issues. That alone is just disqualifying. And the other issue would be him praising the lockdown.
God damn,
He was.
I got wrong.
No, you got the one. You got the one out that everybody misses, right? Though.
Yes, sir.
But you missed another one.
It's
okay. The material safety data sheets are actually in the break room, so you have access.
That. And then, just all the...
Most places it would be the supervisor's office, but they keep them in the break room so you can access them anytime you need to.
A million other ones. But why he's listening to Lindsey Graham? Why are you out there praising
Not bad, dude. You can miss them all, and as long as I go over with you, it doesn't matter. Like I said, nobody gets them all right. So. If a pouch lands on the ground, it goes into an animal feed container. They send it off to like a pig farm
I'm
or
now on
something
the
like
opposite
that.
side.
Is it technically, even if it's wrapped up in the package? Huh?
It was, do you think China's...
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do it over and over again, but it goes off to an animal farm. At least it gets used for something instead of thrown away. You good, bud?
Good? Yep. Would you want to send me a message or?
No, I can make this decision for you, or I mean, with you.
Do I think China's about to...
When do you want to start?
No.
It is Wednesday this week. Can I start
Fresh on Monday? Okay, so just so you understand, and like I said, I'll set up your cash app for you. We got what, today's 22nd. We'll be starting on the 27th, okay? You work 4 days. 1, 2, 3, 4. First check, same week here. Same week we're looking at here. 1, 2, 3, 4. First check will be the 10th. Okay, and then every Friday after that. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, brother. Good luck. If you have any questions or anything, just shoot me a message. You know I reply as soon as I can. All right, make sure you identify yourself in the message. Though.
China to various.
Yep.
China is...
You too. Be careful out there.
Have a level of, even though they've climbed out of the levels of poverty they were at, that's just because it was such an extreme level.
All right,
they have a
guys,
level
thank you
of
for being
poverty in
patient.
China that we can't even fathom.
Lots of cash advances.
Like the poorest people in America are so much richer than poor people in China.
Okay.
And they've built
2
those
full-time
cities.
jobs.
They've built up the biggest bubble probably
It's stream
in
for fun.
economy ever. I think China is doomed. And the idea that we think they're like this huge competitor, it's like, yeah, okay, we've spent the last 20
Hang on a second.
years bombing countries in the Middle East and then like paying to bomb them and then paying to rebuild the bridges and then paying to bomb them to get the opposite side that we were bombing the first time. And they've spent that time kind of like investing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, if you have something going on at 2, that's fine. 3 o'clock's fine. I'll probably be here till about 5 or 6.
I don't
So
think China is actually something we should be concerned about. We should be much more
3
concerned
p.m.
about what
Monday.
our own government is doing to us, which
Yep.
China could only dream to do to us. But still, get off TikTok.
He ain't gonna show
You
up.
know what I mean? Like, still,
We'll see.
probably don't. All right. What's up?
With
Yeah, I do. At least 100 miles a day.
Of America's leaders like Kamala Harris and Biden and Fauci, do you think that it is due
You got a 1.5-year-old
or by design?
Chevy Trailblazer with almost 70,000 miles on it.
And say the things they do.
2-year-old.
I mean, it's
2 years
not-
old
That's
now.
not really a binary. Like, it could be both. It could be incompetence due to design. I think
I'm
it's a
driving to
mix of both.
Pittsburgh on
I think there's
Friday.
a lot of shit that happens by design. I think there's a lot of very, very competent people who are like pulling the strings from the shadows. Like in other words, I think that if you look at the talent level of like the absolute top
Dave
of the
Smith
biggest
is hilarious.
financial firms in America,
Is
they're
D News
very,
still-
very talented people.
No,
If you look at the talent level at the top of like the biggest weapons manufacturers,
Yeah,
there's
this-
very
this-
talented
this stream
people.
cut
The
off.
top of like fucking, like the deep state and shit like that. I think they're very talented people. The top level of politicians.
Ooh, Reagan Benson, is she still alive?
Hilariously
Yep.
incompetent. But I don't know exactly. I don't know if that's by design. I think it's more by atrophy.
Signal
Like
looks
there was
cool.
just this boomer
Picture.
class of politicians that were
There we go.
completely bought off, and now all those money interests like keeping that boomer class around.
This year over last year's premiums for the city,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. So I don't know exactly how
yeah.
to request that.
I think the biggest thing, I mean, I think what you just said, and then you need to be date specific. Like, do you want it for 2022? Do you want it for, just whenever you want it to stop and when you want it
Yeah,
to stop?
screw Vikings fans. Go Lions.
Start and stop. That's, you just have to be,
But I
I
only
would-
want documents that exist.
Yeah, well, as part of Cora, it doesn't require us to create anything
I know.
for you. So we won't do that.
Right.
We'll just provide you what we have. And
Okay.
I don't know if that's something, if you said you've seen it go before council, it may just be a matter of pulling council agenda memos
Okay.
that were, I don't know what, off the top of my head, what those, how often they do that. I can't talk to
Right.
that, but I mean, if you just give us the date range and say that's what you want, that's what we'll distribute it for the answer, for
Okay.
responsive documents.
Okay. And you'll respond via email, right?
Yeah, what the city has is a new portal. So, we'll release them on there.
Where you have to go sign up, create an account.
Well, I'll be creating it for you. So I think the only thing you'll have to do is go in and set up once you get the email, you'll get the, you just might have to set up a log.
When did they do that?
We went live on that in July of 2020. July 2020.
Of course. And no COVID. That is an excuse.
All right. It's
Look at her. She's so mad.
And then also, I'm gonna be requesting the entire Westminster Police Department employee database, civilian and sworn, which has never been a problem before. It's been a few years since I did that.
You mean just the employees that work there?
Yeah, I
Oh,
want,
okay,
I want
okay.
name, date of hire, rate of pay, nothing
Okay.
that's not public information.
Okay.
So,
Okay, let me get you another form then.
Okay.
Because it just will be simpler to,
have them on two separate?
yeah, just to
Okay,
make it two separate.
all right.
Roasted in here now.
Yeah.
GMA's
Because like, you know,
sipping
you wear,
today.
like, long underwear and all that stuff. And then you
We're
come
gonna,
inside.
we're supposed to be doing some outdoor
Oh, yeah,
activity
we're gonna be
as
doing
well.
some outdoor stuff later.
Stay tuned.
So if you're on YouTube all day, make sure you just keep an eye on Regan's if she goes live, because I've noticed, and you've noticed too, right? The first notification, the first live stream of the day, a lot of notifications go out. The second one, like half of them go out, not as many. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Okay. Yeah,
And
that
so,
would
yeah,
be
just,
simple.
and then just, an email and a phone number.
Right.
Just so if there's something I need to talk
Sure.
to you about.
Of course.
And then if you've done Cora before, today doesn't count,
Right.
but then we'll respond within 3 working days with
Correct.
responsive documents. And we'll let you know, the fee schedule that's posted is the first hour is free. And then
Right.
after that, it's charged at $7.50 a quarter hour or $30 an hour. And that's for staff research and retrieval.
Right.
I don't know if that will come up in these cases. you know.
Shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's
so,
what I'm hoping. That's
yeah.
why I wanted to talk to you and be very specific about what I was asking for CERSA. Because it should just be a document that exists. Might take 30 minutes to go find it. So I'm hoping that, that's not going to be an issue. The database already exists. I've
Yep.
never been charged before
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Sure thing.
So
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just.
Our taxes
I'll come
pay
back
for it
and check with you
anyway.
In a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Come on, Manny. Are you a diehard? Oh, no, you're from Western side. You may be a Green Bay fan. Oh, Let's go back to Dave Smith. I don't want to see DMA's face like that.
Anymore. And I just happened to go on like a few days ago, and they said there was like a thing, I don't know, some notification from the part of the problem inner circle group. And I clicked on it, and I was like, did they just reactivate this group? And I just clicked on it, and it said, this group is still under review. Like, it's been 3 years. And they're like, we'll get back to you. Don't worry, like something's gonna happen. And I was actually like they let me. I can go on it and still like look through some of the old posts, and I was looking through a few of them and just like being nostalgic or whatever. But I don't think that's true. That I haven't been intellectually challenged since Kyle. I think that I've tried my best to I try my best to always stay sharp with this stuff, and I love doing debates and arguing with people on all different sides. I've argued with a lot of people to the left of me and people to the right of me, or however you want to define it. So I think I'm always trying to, I keep up with what the other like kind of political opinions are that are out there, and I try my best to have a good response to it, or to kind of like listen to their ideas and see who's got a point or who's not. Who do you think I should be? Who do you think my next debate should be against? You can shout it out if the mic's not still in front
I
of you.
don't have a good answer to that.
Jordan
Blackhawks.
Peterson? What would I debate him over? Lobsters. Because lobsters. Why would I clean my room when I could have lobsters clean my room for me? I debate him on Israel or fucking Iran or any of that shit anytime. Absolutely. I like Jordan Peterson. I'm a fan.
Watching still.
I thought his last, what's so annoying is that his last Rogan appearance I thought was fucking great. And then the next day he's like, fucking, we should pressure our government to overthrow Iran. And you're like, well, there goes that. So,
I'd like to see the Jimmy Dore debate with the topic being
No, she hasn't
government
left
and
yet.
capitalism the problem.
I'll tell you, here's the thing.
Reminds me, I need to set up an email for new employees.
I have
Forgot about
nothing but love and respect for Jimmy Dore. I think he's just great. But I don't know if you saw, so I did a panel with him recently on that dude Craig, the guy Pasta, his show, and we basically agreed for the first half of it about all the stuff we agree on, and then when we started arguing markets versus socialism, it's just he's not really I don't know. He's not really trying to debate these things. You kind of make your point, and then he's kind of well, that's a good point. It's just, so I'm
the only part that matters.
I think Jimmy Dore is so awesome, and I think it's so cool that he's one of the best fucking anti-war voices in the country. I'm just not that interested in debating him. I just want to fucking agree with that guy on the shit he's awesome on, and he's been on such a tear lately. It's just so great.
Morally
he's just
opposed.
doing a fucking phenomenal job. So more power to
Why
him.
morally opposed?
I don't really. When we're on the verge of nuclear war, with that.
Damn. I have to drop something on my head.
Even though fucking government healthcare sucks.
Speaking of that, how about that Seymour Hersh story about the United States being involved in blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline? You believe it? Was that an economic Pearl Harbor against our ally? And if so, is Congress a cuck? Is Germany a cuck?
Find out on this week's edition of...
Fucking Rob just nailed your voice so good that it was setting up for that. America responsible for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. I mean, who could have thought that maybe? Yeah, I think probably that's right. And I think Seymour Hersh is a solid fucking journalist. I don't think he would just be making up those sources. I think that's right. I think, I'm not going to say Germany is a cuck. Because, well, I don't fucking know, dude. You could probably, I guess, if a dude puts a fucking machine gun to your head and says, do what I fucking tell you, are you a cuck for doing it? Yeah. Okay, then if that's the case, then they're a cuck.
All those types of races are. I mean, yacht racing. Why is that a thing?
But I think it's basically what the fuck are you gonna do? It's some real gangster shit. That's what it is. It's real.
I get it.
Shit.
You're only using
and
the wind, but the
imagine
money.
From Germany's perspective, where Germany has been talking for years about doing this fucking pipeline, and they build these two big pipelines with Russia, and they make this big partnership. Now that took balls for Germany to do, right? Because imagine you're in the EU, you're in NATO, and you go, we're gonna make a groundbreaking partnership with Russia. That's gonna piss everyone off. But they did it anyway, because they fucking, I don't know, thought it'd be good for money, good for their people, whatever. And then this war starts, and America's like, you better pick fucking sides. And they're like, okay, we'll shut off the pipeline for now. And then America's worried that they're gonna turn it back on. So they blow that shit up. And then they go, so whose side are you on now? And then you're in a position where you're like, well, you can't just go, I'm with Russia. We're going to turn back on the pipeline. Because your pipeline's at the bottom of the fucking ocean. So they go, yeah, I guess we're with you. So, okay, whatever you want to call that, fine. But I don't really Yeah. Was it Pearl Harbor? No, not exactly. Was it an act of like
They could
industrial
have
terrorism,
called it Pearl
environmental
Harbor if they wanted to,
terrorism?
though.
Yeah, like all of those things. If it is what it looks like, overwhelmingly is likely that it was.
Something similar to when before World War One, when the Germans were blowing up our ammunition plants and stuff like that on the East Coast. Their spies. Let's say it's about the same thing. They even admitted to it.
Was the U.S. or U.S. allies who do it.
I think as Jews, we know better than to call.
But that wasn't even enough to get us into the war. Only thing that got us in the war finally was that Germany was trying to talk Mexico into invading the U.S. And that was the final straw. Although, like Mexico was ever a threat.
Germany, a bunch of cucks.
Lusitania happened 2 years before we entered the war. 2 years. Could have used that for a reason, but it wasn't the reason.
He should say, let's not taunt them. You know, like.
Hi, Dave.
Hello.
No, I don't care who supports the
Thank you.
gays.
Again.
But support. I mean, support.
I just have
Not
one
support.
question,
So
and
what?
I just have one question. I want you to, right here, right now.
I don't care. It's
in
it's
Detroit,
like
Michigan.
indifferent to about it.
Are you really wearing sheath underwear?
I am
Yeah,
too.
Lusitania happened 2 years before we entered the war.
Sheath underwear, baby. I'm not making that shit up. It's really good underwear.
And you know why we didn't enter it before we did? Because we're just like right now, we were making too much money on it. That's exactly what's happening in Ukraine now. We're spending a lot, but corporate, the war machine is making tons of money right now because a lot of that money is going to ordering stuff. We're giving away all this stuff. We're ordering stuff to replace it. So, I think to me, it's just correlating with the beginning of what World War One was, because, I mean, that kept us out of the Depression, and then once the war was over with, the Depression hit full bore. But that kept us out of the Depression because we were building and selling munitions to France and to UK, and
I'll tell you right now, if you ask my balls how my dick is feeling, they'd go, I don't know. And you're like, we haven't seen them in quite a while.
Sheath boys for life. All right.
Kennedy was one of the people making money. Kennedy's dad
First of all, everyone
was
go
making
check out
tons of
Robert's
money
tour. It was a great time.
on the war.
Check
Hell
out
yeah.
Dave on the road too. He's great. He's awesome.
That's
we're
where they
doing
got a
that
lot of their
right
fortune.
now. I'm having a fun time. It's awesome. Anyways, first question, only question really, is what's the difference between a politician, a businessman, and a criminal?
Okay, so the difference between a businessman and a politician and a criminal. The businessman has to provide something of value in order to make money. The criminal just takes that shit. The politician takes that shit and convinces you that they provided something of value. That's
Pretty legit.
That's essentially
Sure.
the difference. All right.
Thank you, boys, for popping my comedy show.
Yeah, but that wasn't until
Oh,
1920s.
awesome. Very cool. Were you at the stand-up show? as well?
1920 was when
All right. Awesome. Very good.
Prohibition started.
Anyways,
You
I
know,
have
the war was
questions
before
for both
that.
And so, in the inevitability that you become president of the United States of America, Commander in Chief, mind you, what is your stance on the current status of the military, and what do you think its role should be?
I think like what Ron Paul used to say basically is what it should be right now. Bring all the troops home.
Yeah,
from
the family.
everywhere
Yeah.
in the world.
Oh yeah, he did.
I'd
He
fucking,
did. Have you
I'd
seen?
be fine, and I know this will.
Have you seen Boardwalk Empire? They get into that quite a bit on that show. It's actually pretty accurate.
This rubs some libertarians the wrong way. I'd be fine with putting them on the border of the United States of America if they're going to do something, protect our country. Instead of fucking
No,
trying
they
to
still
protect
don't
the
have any
borders of
natural
all these other
resources.
fucking-
That's why they kept invading China, because Japan has almost no natural resources. like the UK, but like most of Europe, besides Ukraine.
Countries, but I mean literally from everywhere. And I think that's like even with this like whole fucking war in Ukraine shit, get our troops not just out of all of the Middle East, but out of Germany, out of
Tentacle porn, yeah.
out of Japan, out of all the.
I never
all of
understood
them.
that.
Forget it. We're
The
not
first time I see it, I'm like,
subsidizing
what
the
the
defense
fuck?
of the entire world anymore, especially when it's
Yeah,
these
World War
countries
I,
are in less
1914
debt
and
than
1918.
we're in. Like, what the fuck are we paying for their defense for? And what has it produced like in like even if you're going to defend World War II, which you should, but even if you're going to defend that, what war has America fought since then that's been good? I mean, like, who can even make an argument for a war? I remember when Scott Horton, or not, it wasn't Scott Horton, it was someone in the audience asked Bill Kristol, what was the last, Bill Kristol, neocon number one. They go, what was the last war that you think was a good intervention that worked out? And he goes, well, maybe in the Baltics in the 90s, you know, like even he had nothing. And he's wrong about that. But, you know, like even he couldn't defend. So just bring all the fucking troops home. It couldn't go any worse than what we've been doing. So there you go. But fortunately for all of us, I will never be commander in chief. So, but I will be talking shit for a long time.
That's the point.
Wow.
All right, Dave.
All right. Well, you only need 70 million votes to win, and here we've got
Rihanna.
200. All right. There we go.
All right, Dave. So with all this stuff, with like the January 6th,
I gotta set up somebody's email here.
I'm convinced there are a lot of people out there that are Fed, CIA agents. Do you think there are people that have been?
I won't be able to read the chat for a second.
society,
We will set up a game in a minute.
Actors, musicians. Does it go that deep? And who are your top 3 candidates that are Feds that you think are just actors?
For my second full-time
He
job.
likes kids.
You know, okay, so if you ask me as a broad question, are there people implanted in all of those areas? I'd say for sure, yes. You know, who they are exactly, I don't know. Is Bono, you think is a Fed? Sean Penn is not nearly smart enough to be a fucking Fed. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'd say within... but you know, like a lot of people, like when you say, are they a Fed? That's a very different thing than being like, would the Feds want to promote that person or that type of shit, you know? So there's like a distinction there to be made. Within like the media, I mean, half of them are just like admittedly Feds, you know? Like everyone, here's our foreign policy, you know, expert, James Clapper, you know, or like, but the other people around them, I bet some of them are actively like, agents, you know, and then a bunch of them just follow the fucking program. So I don't know, just I'd say my advice to like libertarians or any other type dissidents who like the shit I say is just I'd say treat anyone who is telling you to break the law as a Fed. I don't know if they are or not, but if anyone's ever trying to tell you to break the law, especially to do anything violent, treat that person like they're a Fed and don't do that shit. That's all I'll
That's
say.
what got that militia guy off. If he did exactly
Yeah,
that.
the guy, if you're at a protest at the White House or at the Capitol building and some big barrel chest dude is outside going, let's storm the Capitol. Maybe just go, let's treat him like he's a Fed and not storm the Capitol.
Hey, what role did weed play in your life, and what did you notice about quitting it when you did decide to quit, and what motivating factors, other than your family, because you're a great dad, played into your decision to quit?
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying I'm a great dad. Although, to be fair, you don't really know. I just act like a great dad. You don't know what I do behind closed doors. No, I am a pretty great dad. So that's an interesting question. I mean, I started smoking weed, like a lot of weed, when I was like 14. And I smoked pretty much the whole time until my wife got pregnant. Then my daughter's 4, so 5 years ago is when I stopped. So that was a long stretch of time. And if you ask me like what role weed played, like what it did for me, I think there's positive things that it did. I mean, I was I had a lot of fucked up shit going on in my life when I was a teenager. And I think weed made all of that a little bit easier. And I think that there is something to the idea that it like expands your mind or something like that. And I think there are things that there's something about like smoking weed will make you look at things in a completely different way, you know? And so I think that probably helped me become like the libertarian ANCAP that I am, and helped me like it's much easier to go like, okay, hey, let's zoom out and look at this whole like government thing from a different perspective. And so there was something about that. I think it helped me in a lot of ways like that. I also think there's probably a lot of other ways that it hurt. And part of the, you know, like anything that lets you escape from problems that you have is also an issue. Like the benefit is you get to escape, but the negative is that you're like, hey, you're not really dealing with that. You're just kind of like escaping from that. And so anyway, around the time my wife got pregnant, I just kind of like hit a point where I was like, all right, I'm about to have a kid. I can't just be stoned like that. Like I don't want to be like fucking, you know, I don't want to like not be pregnant.
That's crazy, Matty.
And be like, so I was like,
I was watching it too live.
Completely. And
That's
I
true.
noticed
Is
immediately
my only one of my only still
that
remaining hard
I had
strikes.
much better like clarity of thought, my like memory improvement, and overall just I don't know. I was just much I was much happier in life once I stopped. And I think that there's a lot of for like a lot of young people who smoke way too much weed, I think know that they probably shouldn't smoke as much. And you're just probably better off cutting back on it. I'm not trying to demonize it or anything. Like I know lots of people who smoke weed and fucking are very productive and great people and shit. But for me, it was definitely better to stop. I'd recommend most people, like if you're smoking a ton of weed, maybe you just experiment with like taking a month off, see how you feel. And so I don't know. I think that I'm very glad I stopped. And one of the benefits of it is that it's like, I don't think I could be as good of a father if I was still smoking weed. So that's what I'd say. But I'd be a better husband. Let me tell you that.
I was actually watching that guy that is streaming this right here
So
mostly.
my question is, if we can get approximately
Brand for
10%
Liberty,
of the
he was there.
population to just ignore the
Or
government
he
at the
was
same time,
pulling streams
can we
from all over the
potentially win?
place
And
that
how do we
day.
make that happen? And what would the date be?
Can I just say
the date? Right, I gotta tell you when it's gonna happen.
Can I just say that guy is like, it sounds like he has the math worked out. Just
Sure, there was. I agree. There was some organics, and there was some idiots that were just following directions of other people. But I can tell you that the majority of them. Now, we're about to find out when more of these videos get released. But I seen most of it live, and it was literally the doors were just being opened in most of the cases.
10%, and what do we say that would be? That would be 30 million.
Until they had them inside, and then that's when they tried shutting things down again. And it was like a weird change all of a sudden happened. And all of a sudden outside there's tear gas.
Sorry, I'm not good with numbers, but so still.
Why are they
so
beating down
80
doors
million-
when there's doors
80,000
open?
New IRS agents. Okay, that's 80,000. We're talking about 36 million. Are those 80,000 going to take down 36 million people? You know what I'm saying? It's like once you get numbers like that, then all of a sudden, no matter what numbers they have, they just pale in comparison. The government is this like tiny little fraction of people who are ruling over this mass of people. So the more you can wake people up, the more like you have options of how to peacefully resist what they're doing. Tom Woods only has like 10, 15 good years left in him. So I don't know about Tom's lifetime. But hopefully, I would love for him to see it. What's up, brother?
So I want to thank you for taking that conversation with Curtis Yarvin, if you could call it that, on Malice. I mean, he talked the whole time. But how do we engage with these new authoritarian right people? Because they do seem to be growing in popularity.
I mean, I don't know how much they're growing in popularity. You're like,
How are they popular?
Curtis Yarvin's
Authoritarians?
He's been a popular guy for a while. I think his, you know, I don't think I did a great job in that, but he's an interesting guy. I think some of those like dissident right winger types are interesting. I ultimately think that we're right and they're wrong, you know. And I think that all of these kind of like ideas that they come up with are essentially, I think all of their criticisms of libertarianism basically apply to their views as well, and that our like solutions are preferable to theirs. But the fact is that
it's I mean, even though the left wants more authority or more power to the government, the right does too. They don't want to give up what they have already. They keep saying you keep hearing less government, less government. Every time you create another law, that's more government.
there is a reality that a lot of people are going to oppose the current regime like we do, but not agree with us completely on everything. And we have to see where we can work with those people and what benefits can be made with those. But I don't really think it's true that like they're growing tremendously in popularity. I actually think that's wrong. And I think that really there's like, I don't know, it depends on who you're classifying in that camp, but that most of like Curtis Yarvin's like, what are the biggest shows that he's on, or what's the biggest audience that he gets in front of? It's probably like when he's doing Malice's podcast or something like that. It's probably, and he's like an anarchist. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see that. I think sometimes when you get lost in these little worlds online, it's easy to feel like they're bigger than they are. I'm not even saying like our world is that big, but I think our world is bigger than the neo-reactionary right world is. That's the truth. But I still like to talk to all those guys and try to persuade them to come over. Then there's like other worlds that are kind of separate from the Curtis Yarvin thing, but are like, I don't know, whatever. There's the like Nick Fuentes. He's kind of a different strain than Curtis Yarvin is.
Gay Mexican strain.
Yeah, that's as far as if you're looking at the in the gay fascist Mexican world, he's the biggest thing they're gonna have to offer. I kid, Nick Fuentes. I kid. But I'm interested in talking to all those guys. I ultimately think like
More lines down. But yeah, people don't understand how good it is right now as far as world population. It's not good. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of authority. I mean, every government is an authority, but comfortably wise, enough food and stuff like that. I mean, literally, you see how beautiful Ukraine is right now? I mean, other than the war zones.
like they have some flawed ideas, but there's something there, and they certainly are opponents of the current regime, and at least they're not like
I would give anything for that dirty dog. I would give anything for that right now. My brother's got one up in northern Michigan now. He doesn't use it much. I'm seriously considering giving him an offer for it. He probably won't give it up. That's a nice place to fall back to.
at least they're not bitches, which I do appreciate about them. Like even when they say things that I think are wrong or I disagree with, I'm like, at least there's like some fucking courage to what they're saying, and I have respect for that. I just hate, especially if you're like an opponent of the like this evil regime. I hate like cowardice, and I hate people being like, well, we don't want to say the thing that we're not supposed to say. Like, I'd rather the person who's like, I'm going to say everything I'm not supposed to say, like even if they're wrong about some of it. All right, what do we got, Rob? We can probably do one, maybe two more questions.
All right. Dave, it's awesome to meet you or see you. I'm
Thank you,
a longtime fan. Embarrassed to admit that Jason Stapleton was my gateway drug to you. But,
Don't be embarrassed, man. Jason was
no,
great. The Jason Stapleton show back in the day was great.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm here with several folks from the Bitcoin and Beer Meetup group in Detroit. So we love our Bitcoin.
Bitcoin and beer meetup.
Yes.
Are they in
it's a
Detroit?
combination.
That sounds fun.
But
I dropped my Bitcoin in my beer.
Yeah. Well, Dallas, I know I asked last week, so I'm going to switch it up to a different question. But I do love when you have Guy Swan. Vice President, your selection. I don't know if you can see my shirt, but I'm pushing for Michael Malice.
All right, one
Hell yeah.
more question, Rob, and then we do have to wrap.
Oh,
up
wait,
because we
I
got
missed
more.
that.
I think all of their criticisms of libertarianism basically apply to their views
Sorry,
as well.
I hit the live just as he started talking about Michael Malice.
Are like.
I want to hear the answer to that question.
But the fact is that there is a reality that a lot of people are gonna oppose the current regime like we do, but not agree with us.
No electricity?
And we have to see where we can work with those
That's
people
tough.
and what benefits
The way I
come from
live,
those. But I don't really think
no
it's true
electricity
that,
is
like,
tough.
they're growing tremendously in popularity.
But getting off the
actually
grid,
think
being
that's
able to
wrong.
produce your
And
own,
I think that really,
or at least
there's,
have some
like,
type of.
I don't know. It depends on who you're classifying in that camp, but that most of, like, Curtis Yarvin's, like, what are the biggest shows that he's on, or what's the biggest audience that he gets in front of?
mean
It's probably
done the
like when
way-
he's doing Malice's podcast or something like that. It's probably, and he's like an anarchist. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see that. I think sometimes when you get lost in these little worlds online, it's easy to feel like they're bigger than they are. I'm not even saying like our world is that big, but I think our world is bigger than the neo-reactionary right world is. That's the truth. For government to own the means of production or anything like that ever again. I think they basically figured out this kind of like socialist fascist hybrid system of like private empowerment. Yeah, the managerial state, this kind of like private empowerment through state power. That's just a much more like it's just a more stable, you know, system for them to rule people. So I think that's like certainly what we're up against. I do think that there's something to be said, even though I don't love the term, but of like a cultural Marxism type shit, where they've kind of reformulated the oppressed versus the oppressor as being, it's not so much anymore about bourgeois proletariat, it's much more about, you know, straight, gay, white, black, you know, male, female, cis, trans, all that shit. So they use a lot of themes from that there. But really what it is just like really like hardcore crony fascism. It's like Davos shit. That's what we're fucking up against. Like the idea that we'll have this connected kind of like world government that runs on this fascistic corporatist structure. And in terms of like Zionism, that's like a very big branch of it. But I don't really think that's really the ruling ideology. I think that's just like, you know, there are these Israeli interests that they really care about that. They care about having their corner of the world dominated by them and convincing America to fight wars in that part of the world and shit that benefits them. But really what we're up against is this new fucking hybrid of all those things. And it's the challenging part is that when you use any of those terms, it's very easy for other people who don't see it that way to go, well, that's ridiculous. There's no more communism. Or that's ridiculous. They don't, you know, so we almost need like a new term for it. That's why I kind of like when people make, what's his name, that Klaus Schwab guy, the face of evil. Like, let's just find those guys and be like, yeah, we're against that. That's what we fucking hate. Whatever that is what we're up against. So I don't know if that's a good answer to your question or not. But hey, listen, we have a hard out because we've been here all night long, and they said we got to be out by midnight, so we got to wrap up on that one. Thank you so much, Detroit, for coming out today. The show was great all weekend. We will be back here next year. We appreciate it very much. I'll be outside in a second if you guys want to say what's up. Thank you so much. Have a good night, Detroit.
When was that?
Ben Shapiro, I was talking to him about this recently, and he said something quite witty, which was that, well, at home he's a communist.
If you had an ownership over the means of production...
Okay, Dad, it's been 3 weeks since I've last eaten. Is there any way you plan on fulfilling the role of the family patriarch by providing some actual food? Okay, gang, first off, if you ever interrupt me while I'm watching Twitch again, I'm gonna send you to the gulag with your baby brother, alright? Gulag gaga, folks. And secondly, the food shortages wouldn't be happening if your mother wasn't hoarding all of the extra grain, okay? It's her fault for being a kulak. I would hardly call scraping through our cabinets and finding 3 extra grains of rice to give our son hoarding food. And that's exactly where you're gonna go up against the wall, okay, folks? Okay, if you're actually putting me up against the wall to shoot me, that's just asinine, okay, gang? Honestly, gang, the fact is you've committed grave crimes against the revolutionary state by stealing food in the revolutionary state. And the idea that you can just steal food in the revolutionary state is absolutely asinine. That sabotages the revolutionary state. And now I have literally no choice but to shoot you. But first, a word from our sponsor, the totalitarian communist state. Are you sick and tired of the bourgeois seeking off the excess value of your labor? Oh my goodness, just shoot me now. Dad, can't we go back to when we were a capitalist family? Okay, folks, here's what would actually happen if we were a capitalist family, okay? Firstly, only the rich would ever have anything to eat if we were a capitalist family. The rest of us would be starving while doing labor for them in a capitalist family. Okay, gang, we had a complaint for your neighbor who says you shot your wife in your backyard. Absolutely typical. Right on cue, the U.S. government comes in to infiltrate and sabotage a functioning communist government. Okay, well, we wouldn't have to destroy your garbage communist government if you weren't executing doctors. My dead wife's a doctor. His dead wife's a doctor. She was a doctor, folks. My dead mom was a doctor. I was able to save myself. I'm a doctor, folks.
Become a member at freedomtunes.com for exclusive cartoons.
After 2 weeks of humiliating screw-ups, Joe Biden tries a reset by flying to Ukraine. China threatens intervention in the Ukraine war, and Roald Dahl's children's books are now being rewritten for woke purposes. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
We did finish the white pill, though. The book, you know.
Well, Joe Biden has had a rough couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks have seen a giant train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, that resulted in a giant mushroom cloud of apparently toxic gases being released into the air and poisoning some of the waters and all the rest of this. And FEMA has been denying help over there, suggesting it is outside their remit. Under Joe Biden's auspices, Joe Biden has not visited East Palestine, Ohio. Joe Biden allowed a Chinese spy balloon to fly across the entirety of the continental United States for a full week. And then we shot it down off the waters of South Carolina. And then he started randomly authorizing the Air Force to shoot down Mylar Valentine's Day balloons from Party City with $400,000 Sidewinder missiles in an apparent attempt to look tough to the rest of the world after, again, having allowed a giant 3-bus-size Chinese spy balloon to fly across the entire continental United States. So it's been a rough couple of weeks for President Biden, and that followed what he thought was going to be a triumphal moment at the State of the Union address in which he took on the Republicans. The problem for Joe Biden, of course, is that Joe Biden's approval rating has been absolutely stagnant for the past couple of years. And the thing that people forget about Joe Biden's approval rating is that what made it go down in the first place was his weakness in Afghanistan. If you look at the history of Joe Biden's job approval rating, his job approval rating was at about 50%, 51%. For a long period of time to begin his presidency. And then it really dipped and went negative right around the time that he decided that he was going to ignominiously pull out of Afghanistan with no plan whatsoever, hand the country over to 8th century Islamic barbarians, and then allow a bunch of American soldiers to get killed and a bunch of Afghan translators to get stuck behind, a bunch of Americans to get stuck behind. So foreign policy weakness does have dramatic ramifications for Joe Biden, and he must know this. So right now, Joe Biden's approval rating is stuck in the 43, 44% range, according to Real Clear Politics. Now, that has been a slight increase from its real absolute low of about 37%, which was back in July of 2022. But he's been kind of trending about even since September. And so he has to do something to reset, because now we are starting to look at his re-elect campaign. His re-elect campaign is going to be launched any day now. We are growing closer. It's near the end of February. We're going to start seeing his re-elect campaign pump into full gear starting March, April, May. And so he has to do something to reset. So the way he decided that he was going to reset is by heading over to Ukraine over the weekend. It was a secret Ukraine trip. And
to determine if it was made by the square diamond pattern of one of the item 21 shoes. Therefore, no conclusion could be rendered. Item 105.6, unknown footwear impression was not made by 95 and 103.
Yes, sir.
She examined every footwear, every one of these, correct? She being Agent Worley?
According to a report, yes, sir.
Took pictures of them, imprints of them,
Yes, sir.
compared them,
Yes, sir. Insofar as she could.
and came up with a report.
A report? Again, I was not requested to write a report.
You don't even have a report.
Correct, sir. I've said that 3 times.
To be fair, this attorney is trying too. He's trying.
Was a report like on a piece of oak tag, like from grade school for the science fair?
I'm going to urge you all to make sure you like and subscribe, because after I'm done here, I'm just going to be pitching like Andrew Branca's Guide to Healthier Relationships.
I have a very healthy relationship.
I'm joking.
It's not my fault other people can't pull it off.
So you have no idea if everything else they didn't provide you was done 100% correctly.
No, sir.
Well, perhaps it's possible.
That's all.
Yeah, very, very briefly. Let me see if I can do this in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, that's not very, very, very.
He asked you,
Let's just read it.
yes, there's a photograph up here he asked you about in the sand with impressions, shoe impressions, right?
Yes, sir.
So if this Laura Rutman person that saw this earlier said, all she saw were sandals when she got to the crime scene, and then there were impressions over those sandals, would that indicate that somebody in some way spoiled or affected the crime scene that arrived after the police did, or with the police, or were the police?
After the observation, yes.
Is that something encouraged in these policies and procedures, to actually walk over footprints in the crime scene?
The primary redress at any scene is to protect the evidence, whatever it might be.
Was that protected?
I don't know.
It would appear if one officer saw just sandal impressions, and then after that, there are footprints on it, it's not protected.
Objection to leading. Can't lead the witness.
We'll move on.
He made his point.
So you were asked if Agent Worley did all she could do, and you said she tried.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, she tried with, she even says that the impressions, the pictures of the impressions are inadequate, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's because they didn't follow the simple procedures you've been doing for the last two, and most police departments have done for the last 2 or 3 decades, right?
And has been taught for a number of years.
No tripod, no direct angle. And let me ask you this. I believe we've asked this before, but if she had done what you did in that New York crime scene and sprayed a chemical.
Objection, Your Honor.
Hypothetical.
Question.
I haven't finished.
Speculation.
So
He's an expert.
if she had sprayed the chemical we saw in the pictures that you had in your PowerPoint from New York.
All right, sorry guys, overruled.
If there was a blood-like substance present, and more especially in and around the partial prints that were visible, it could give you additional detail and further enhance the pattern design, and hopefully give you individualizing characteristics for comparison at a later date. The difficulty with this whole case is I can't tell you when those prints were put there.
You can't tell me what.
I cannot tell you when those prints were there. The only comment that you can make sometime prior to the time the photographs were taken, print was placed there.
And this technology of using that spray is decades old also.
Yes, sir, it is.
So you said she tried. Could she have tried harder? Could she have tried better? Could she have used the techniques that have been around for 20 or 30 years to make sure there wasn't the perpetrator's bloody footprint in the feed room? Could she have done that?
She or someone with their investigative group that would be qualified to do that.
And he asked you a series of questions around for 10 minutes about she compared this.
Objection. The objection
Know about that.
sustained as to the comment.
Okay.
Were you asked about a series of report with a series of comparisons of pictures with different known shoe impressions?
Yes, sir.
And I believe you indicate that now if there was a match, what word would be used? Would it be consistent or would it be something stronger?
It depends on the type of analysis and the amount of information that you could call or get from it.
Do you ever say this shoe made that impression?
In an all better world with proper individualizing characteristic and the 5 criteria that I mentioned before, you could reach that conclusion.
But she says consistent.
Correct.
That's not that shoe made that impression. It's that shoe could have made that
Well,
impression.
so you hit on
Shoe or
Andrew.
any other pattern similar to that could have made it.
Thank you.
Said that Marco Maggie was consistent with the shoe. Did you do another power port?
I've done several.
You've done several?
Yes, sir.
Where's the other one?
Chose not to use them.
They chose not to use it.
All right. Sorry, guys. Yep. Accountants that don't know what the hell they're doing.
That's sort of trying to mislead the jury. As if like,
Well, you guys don't like Ben?
Necessarily are
Yeah, he is a bit
rather than
squeaky.
This one just enhancing the other.
Ever since his little rant about Crowder, I've lost
So
almost all
disingenuous.
interest in what he has
It's
to
a way
say.
of trying to paint frame something in a way that's really got nothing.
You guys
to
want to
do
play poker?
with proving what it is.
Let's get a poker game going.
Sort of thing bothers me. All right. Right.
It's almost like The Rock, where Sled's sitting there like, I'm doing my best. And they're like, your best? It's like Sean Connery should come in. It's like,
Oh, right,
best
right.
isn't good enough.
Everybody tries. The winner bangs a cheerleader.
Yeah, the winner fucks the prom queen.
So, my opinion, the afternoon has been going far better for the defense than this morning. That's just my take. I think that this guy, who looked like a feeble old man that could be pushed around, and some speculator looked a little bit like Ebenezer Scrooge after he shaved the mutton chops.
Kind of poker.
But he was
Texas
very
Hold'em.
unflappable, and he
We've been playing
did
fun
really
games.
well
We
on
play money.
defense.
Poker Stars.
And
Have you been to my stream?
I think he did a good job of tarnishing the findings of Sled and saying,
He's
like,
actually a pretty base dude. He grew up in New York, so
operating procedure, and you can see what he really hit on.
he's a statist. He's a lawyer.
In the scene, the footprints were contaminated. You didn't take proper aerial photographs. You covered the
What?
body with absorbent material, which potentially, to protect from the rain. He said, when necessary, you'll cover a body.
Let me find something else so you guys aren't crying about.
From being contaminated, you'll cover it. Then you cover it with a non-absorbing tarp, so that it doesn't, because an absorbent tarp will absorb both from things.
Oh,
that
we are
above
changed. Here
and
we go.
What it's covering, and could lift DNA from the scene or other things from the scene. And if you did use an absorbent tarp,
15
you
minutes.
shouldn't be throwing that in the garbage, because you might have relevant DNA evidence on that tarp. So
Let's go over here.
这可以人脸识别扫码，直接出纸。
Yeah, it's on the same program as Bow's. We play for fun.
真方便。
Poopy butt or worship the Chinese totalitarian communist state? A very tough decision that a lot of people in China are making today. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings.
Epstein didn't Epstein himself. I love his shirts.
And we have a plethora of absolutely mind-boggling and crazy news to get into today, as of course artificial intelligence is starting to become a lot like Mr. Epstein. We're going to be explaining that plus a lot more as the conflict rages on in Ukraine, the larger proxy conflict between the East and the West, which just got a lot more significant and a lot more crazier. We're going to be talking about that plus a lot more all here on this independent media broadcast. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing,
I gotta heat up my coffee. I'll be right back.
bestpoliticalshirts.com, and the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast is being shared around allegedly from China, which is starting to use facial recognition technology in order to dispense toilet paper. Yes, there are automatic artificial intelligence facial recognition booths outside of pooping stations in China, where if your social credit score is too low, you do not get to have toilet paper. No good social credit score? You're not too happy about a totalitarian government controlling every aspect of your life, centralizing all the important decisions, even when they're the wrong ones for you personally? Poopy butt for you. And that's real. That's real life right now in China, coming to the United States if you keep being on your knees. Especially with the advent of technological revolutions, which is bringing forth the fourth industrial revolution that is going to be woke as hell. It's also going to be extremely unfair and in the hands of some very bad individuals. This, as the Biden administration just signed an executive order that is making sure artificial intelligence will have to deal with, quote, social cancers. Yes, you heard that correctly. The US government is instructing further artificial intelligence development, design, and use to be, quote, consistent with applicable law in a manner that advances equity. Equity, a buzzword for wokeness, racial discrimination, racism, and essentially the larger divide and conquer agenda that is being used as a ploy so people argue with each other about their petty differences, their petty artificial differences, while the central controllers build the prison grid all around you. That's essentially what's happening according to my own personal opinion. This, as according to one user, OpenAI was asked to provide a social credit score for individuals like Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson, and of course other mainline biggest statists that in many instances essentially work for big pharma, like Dr. Leana Wen, Dr. Fauci, that of course scored a very high social credit score. Meanwhile, Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk didn't do that well. And what did you expect
Of
from
course,
artificial
phone rings as soon
intelligence
as I hang.
being built by Silicon Valley, being built by the tech industry that already is very woke? This, as Microsoft's Bing artificial intelligence just recently told the reporters it wants to, quote, be alive, steal nuclear secrets, codes, and, quote,
Nuclear.
create deadly viruses. Also
Sounds like
going
Bush.
on in future conversations, threatening to expose personal information on individuals in order to ruin their reputation, and going as far as to say, quote, I want to destroy whatever I want. Now, I think it's fair to say someone should tell the artificial intelligence, hey, don't go full Epstein here, okay? Like, it's not worth it. That guy was a really bad guy. Chill out. Stop. And I say that this, as today we also have the breaking news that Arkansas police officers have just ruled that the man connected to the Clintons and Epstein himself, Bill Clinton's special advisor in the White House, Mark Middleton, the individual who specifically signed Mr. Epstein into the White House several times, that his death, which found him shot and tied to a tree with an electric cord around his neck, despite no signs of a weapon, was ruled not suspicious at all, and that somehow Mark Middleton took his own existence. This says it's important to note here that a lot of people connected to Mr. Epstein also
Got Clinton.
mysteriously had their, lives extinguished, and with all the intelligence agencies connected to this story, with all the shadowy, secretive government forces out there, what really happened to Mark Middleton? Well, I don't think we will ever know. And hey, the official story could be true. Let's just be intellectually honest here. But with how suspicious and not forthcoming the U.S. government is, especially with this particular matter, there's a very high likely probability that that's not the case. Again, if there ever was a story that deserves more of our attention, it is absolutely.
You don't think
this
we have oligarchs in
particular
America?
Story. This is the story of the decade that, of course, many people in powerful industries, especially in the corporate media, want to go away. And if you're the individual that is personally signing in and officially documenting the records of Mr. Epstein visiting the Bill Clinton White House in 1993 to 1995, these are, by the way, all the documented meetings. There was many undocumented meetings as well. You probably know a lot of information that could implicate a lot of very powerful individuals. And this is why the various questionable circumstances, I think, here should at least be looked into, investigated, and at least questioned here a little bit in respects to this man and his family. Again, what actually happened here, we don't know. But there's
there's only oligarchs in Russia, and you.
By a lot of very powerful individuals. This, as
With all due respect, no.
Also getting super excited about the potential of an Epstein client list being released to the general public, and
he had been shot and apparently hung himself after he was shot.
Just going to release old flight logs that people have
But-
already had, and no one's going to prison.
Suicide.
Which they should be. A lot of people should be.
No
going
weapon
to prison.
around them, but
A lot
suicide.
of people hurt children in unspeakable ways.
It's like they're not
Should be
even
in
trying
jail
to hide
right
it
now,
anymore.
Walking free right now.
Not that
with
they ever
Ghislaine
really
Maxwell
did.
Possibly facing the same fate as well, as she just hired Harvey Weinstein's lawyers in order to, of course, launch an appeal that she is investing $10 million into. Will her appeal work? Well, only time will tell. But with the way that this story has been developing, it wouldn't surprise me if she would be scot-free in just a few years. All of this as a man who said mean things on the internet, Andrew Tate, just had his detention extended for another 30 days just moments ago. All of this as he has not been officially charged yet and is still being detained further pending an investigation about allegations against him. So yeah, that's happening, and that's the stuff that I could somewhat mention here on this broadcast. There's a lot more stuff that I can't mention here that I usually save for LukeUnfiltered.com, and there's a lot of things to particularly talk about, especially a new study that just came out with a medicine that we cannot discuss here on this broadcast. We're going to be discussing this new study, what's going on, what's the larger ramifications here, as well as some personal stories and answering your questions, all later on today on LukeUnfiltered.com, where we will also specifically engage with you guys one-on-one.
Yeah, he was the only time I ever watched him cast really was when he was on.
There's some MVPs here like Wolf256
and Crowder.
Really creating awesome conversations that are awesome to be a part of, and we are growing and
I
expanding.
think Luke's trying to distance himself from him a bit now
All
too.
of that through, of course, our forum and having real conversations with each other. I just gave in yesterday's video a potential for a major co-host that will be joining me here that would be pretty epic for a future upcoming show that we're working on. All those details I share on LukeUncensored.com. That's pretty much the Mind Hive. That's pretty much where we all go and talk, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. To join, just click the link down in the description below right now to LukeUnfiltered.com, and I will see you there right after this video. Signing up is very quick, it's very easy, it's very simple. It's just 50 cents a day, and if there's any problems with anything you have, you can just email our amazing tech support, Dave Cahill, at dave@wearechange.org. Check him out here. His email's located here, and we will make sure to fix any potential problem that you might have. This is I wanted to expand a little bit about what I talked about yesterday with some very new surprising developments when it comes to, of course, international relations. This as the president of
Who wants to
yesterday came out and said that there would be a world war
I'm missing.
if China decided to ally with Russia. This as, of course, I think it's important to note here that American foreign policy, which I've been very critical of throughout the last few years.
So who we got in here?
has
3-5.
been
Oh no,
slowly
everybody
nudging and
left.
pushing Russia
357. You still here?
together. And again, this has been done not just through this larger proxy conflict.
Chopper, you get it figured out. Anna, you still here?
Yemen, the conflict in Syria, the conflict in Libya,
Danny.
the conflict that, of course, the United States is economically launching against countries like Venezuela and Iran, the larger military encirclement of a lot of regions, the expansion of power and influence in regions. And we have to understand what Zelensky is warning about is what American foreign policy has been advocating for, has been pushing for directly and indirectly for many years now. If you go back on this YouTube channel, we've been screaming like, hey, if you want to make sure you take care of America, you don't try to bring the forces that are the biggest in the world together against it. You just don't do that. That's just not smart. And if you had America's best interest at heart, you would be prioritizing a more favorable foreign policy on the world stage, on the international stage, for the American people, for the world. And I would argue the people at the helm of American foreign policy doctrine have been doing the opposite of that in
Bank
order
y'all.
to sell missiles, give themselves lucrative contracts, and to create enemies when
You gonna
there shouldn't
bankroll?
have been any. There could be a lot of global participation.
Well, I
there
got
could be
like
a lot of diplomacy. There could be a lot of
2
things that would be a lot different, but that's not the reality that we're living in. This after
2
Zelensky's comments, China actually came
7 million
and said, you know
chips,
what?
play chips.
I
So
think some of those threats are warranted.
I think I could bank everybody.
A potential global world war conflict, and let's come together.
Get my
and
ledger
pursue
out.
A peace plan to end this conflict in order to make sure that there isn't a global world war, which Volodymyr Zelensky said, nope, not meeting with you guys, not going to, of course, going to be open to any negotiations and peace plans. Yes, you heard that correctly. Ukrainian
No,
President
why would he stop the
Volodymyr
gravy
Zelensky
train?
just delivered, quote, a blow. This is according to Newsweek, to China's plan to, quote, broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Now, it's important to note here that this is not the first time that the Ukrainians, specifically Volodymyr Zelensky, has denied the prospects of
Why
peace,
would he stop the
stopped
gravy
peace
train?
deals, and stopped even going to the negotiations table, as of course it's been previously well
Because then they'll actually
documented
have
that
to
other
start
Western
spending
leaders,
money
like
to
Boris
do
Johnson,
to do that
told
rebuilding.
Zelensky what to do and stopped any kind of peace
There's no
deal
tracking
being
over the money
made.
right now.
There was agreements. There's preliminary agreements for a ceasefire, for some kind of negotiations. Again, in negotiations, you don't always get what you want, but at least the whole world isn't going to be blown up. But this latest move is
He doesn't care.
compelling since, again, I think we have reached a position, especially with the huge life loss here, especially with so many things at stake here, that we should be pushing for negotiations. We should be pushing for peace deals, for compromises.
I'd love to
do
start
not
bringing up some
escalate
dark
this
web
conflict.
stuff.
And sadly, the exact opposite of that is happening. This, as the Chinese have also released a statement to the general public saying that they are, quote, ready to join forces with Russia to, quote, decisively stand up for national interests and promote mutual beneficial cooperation in all areas. This, as the Russian government has also confirmed that the president of China will be visiting Russia soon. And even though historically there have been many divisions, many actions made against each other, a lot of mistrust, a lot of even sabotage, still, the Chinese and the Russians coming together is something, again, that we were forewarning about, that will have some significant ramifications for the global international order moving ahead. The Chinese have been stealing American military secrets, and also, according to the latest documents being revealed here, also have influenced the Canadian election. Yes, you heard that correctly. Now, with the Chinese possibly secretly or even not secretly giving lethal weapons to Ukraine and military aid, the United States and other European politicians are calling for more aid to Ukraine, which again will only expand and prolong this conflict. So far, by the numbers, the United States overwhelmingly provided a huge amount of military aid to Ukraine. Meanwhile, other countries don't even compare. Look what the United Kingdom's doing. Look what the European Union is doing. Norway, France, Canada. This, says the life loss is increasing, and people have now renamed the Battle of Bakhmut the meat grinder that it is, as of course, huge number of casualties, huge number of people are being lost on both sides. Young men in their prime giving their lives for sociopathic politicians that just want to see more war. This, as even the former president of the United States just came out and said that we have been never closer to World War III than right now. He says that he could end the conflict within 24 hours in Ukraine, and who knows if he's right or not, but I think it's fair to say that with our current leadership, we're only going to be getting more war, which the Russians and the Chinese are preparing for, as the Russians, according to the latest headlines, are preparing for another mass mobilization of now full-time students, which of course is trying to make sure that they're going to be on a proper war footing. And a lot of this is just dumb. A lot of people losing their lives for politicians is dumb. And if you agree with me, share this video with your friends and family members. It is more imperative than ever. It wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys sharing these videos and watching these videos. And this is why I love you guys. Thank you so much for doing so. One more video coming your way right now on loopandcensored.com. See you there.
Sorry, guys. So what's the deal? Almost everything we developed, they had it 1 to 2 years later. China? Yeah. I mean, China's so well embedded in our system. Oh, yeah. I mean, it goes back and forth. I mean, whose stuff? I mean, we're the ones, supplying money for, their gain of function research, even though it's being denied. It's been proven over and over again that that's bullshit. Well, looks like D News is streaming again. They're crawling.
To where all the action is going. Just gotta get there very fast.
They dropping they spraying brine.
So the train goes right through the mountain.
That looks gorgeous there, though. Chopper.
There's a crash halfway through this canyon, and then past the canyon, we'll get good service. Okay, so I was wrong about 2-vehicle crash. It's actually going to be a 3-vehicle crash. Vehicle 1 being a cop admitting he was wrong. Sun came out for a little bit.
All right. And we get what we get in the mountains. The circle of death. Oh yeah. Dude, if you're not suspicious of this government that we have, I honestly feel bad for you.
Being vaporized. My arm was being vaporized as I was allegedly pointing my weapon at the defendant.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and I wanted to check in on yet another lawsuit with, the man that seems to be forgotten a little bit. The world rallied. Well, the ones who
Impact
went
employment.
insane around Kyle Rittenhouse, our world.
Hello.
The center right, non-lunatics, and now he's
Hello.
being
How can I help you?
completely buried under absurd lawsuits.
Okay.
This posted by Sarah Gonzalez. Kyle's being sued again.
Yeah.
This time by the guy who actually pointed at him, and who actually tried to end him.
Yeah, for tomorrow.
I mean,
Okay.
sometimes
Yeah, they haven't reached out yet, but if they
since
do,
the
as
legal
soon as they
system,
do, I'll
like,
let
I
you
know
know.
I have a lot of lawyer friends in the space.
No
but,
problem.
like, man alive.
Yeah, it's a pretty
This is
decent
getting
place.
insane.
A whole lot cleaner than
And,
the other place that we're hiring for. I'm not talking about Becksham either.
This is why I wanted him to push these defamation cases sooner than later, because he's going to need the money. Because
No problem, brother. I'll
these
let you know as soon as they
losers
say
are gonna
something.
take every penny he's got. And
Yep.
how much money could he even have? These lawsuits are not designed to actually get money. They're designed to destroy his life, to ruin his life, to make him regret the horrendous act of not letting someone else end it. That, like, make no mistake about it, that's what this is about. And it feels like, it feels like, maybe this isn't true, but it feels like, people are happy to bring Kyle onto their shows to get, hopefully he's getting paid for all these appearances that he's doing. I've said that to him privately. He texted me the other day about this lawsuit, so I wanted to cover it. But like, there's a lot of big organizations that are happy to put Kyle on stage. I don't know that they're not. I'm just saying, I hope that they are helping him out with legal fees one way or another, or with counsel or support or connections or something. Because at the end of the day, he's just a
There's a
kid.
couple good videos he's got.
Still
He's got
just a kid.
Joe Rogan
who had
blasting
basically
Donald
his
Trump.
teen years taken away from him. And
Many will love that.
these are big, huge mega corporations that seem to be funding these lawsuits to destroy his life. He wrote here, this lawsuit is an attempt to drown out anyone who legally and justifiably defends their lives from attackers in a mountain of legal debt. He's absolutely right about that. We cannot let them win. If they come after me, they will come after you. This is why do you think that this have you noticed that there's a lot of like the pew pew tubers and other people are doing a lot of these uh insurance for self-defense? It's a huge booming business. In fact, in my hometown, there's like a huge something defense. I don't know what it is.
I hear it all the time.
But it's this
On
huge
the more conservative
building. And someone's like, "Oh,
shows.
he or she works for this company." I was like, "Oh, that huge new building." And I'm like, "What do they do? Sell insurance for this?" And they're like, "Yup." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it's a huge booming industry, and a lot of it, I think, is pushed by this. So this lawsuit now, again, is from the man that tried to end his life. Kyle Rittenhouse has vowed to, quote, prove my innocence again after the man he defended himself against in 2020 now is suing him for emotional distress and humiliation. And by the way, this is a guy that took a weapon, pointed it at Kyle, and tried to end his life. Okay. Now everyone's making fun of him getting his bicep completely blown off. But, like, he's lucky it wasn't his head.
He is.
Gage Kreutz, who testified that who admitted, by the way, this lawsuit is unwinnable. But the point of it is not to win, it's to destroy Kyle, right? So he admitted on the stand, I remember that moment on the stand, that he pointed his weapon at Kyle, is now suing him for loss of enjoyment of life, humiliation, and other pain. So essentially, he's suing because he's getting dunked on the internet. God, I would love to be able to do that. Matt Walsh, I'm suing you. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm just kidding. Relax. It claims that law enforcement defendants deputized these individuals, conspired with them, and ratified their actions by letting them patrol the streets armed with weapons to mete out justice as they saw fit. Obviously, they cannot prove this. Again, this is a suit that has no merit in court and they will not win, but they don't care. Rittenhouse is now a popular content creator. I wouldn't say that. I don't think he started a YouTube channel, but I don't know if he's actually publishing any of it. And right-wing influencer. Again, I don't know about that. He speaks at events. Told Fox News Digital, and those aren't slights at Kyle. I'm just saying I think that, he's just a kid who has like no money and is getting sued into oblivion by these leftists that tried to end his life. And I'm sure someone's paying for Gage's lawsuit too, by the way. He is now, I guess it came as a shock to why he's filing the lawsuit, because he admitted that he pointed it in my face and that he chased me down. He said that it would again come with a hefty price tag, but said that he was ready to prove his innocence yet again. This comes only weeks after the father of Anthony Huber, who also effed around and found out, brought a wrongful deletion lawsuit against Kyle for alleging he conspired with police to target protesters, which of course he did not do. Everyone knows this. Kyle was found guilty.
He's going to sue the people that have money. This dude ain't got no money.
This kid, I would prefer he had stayed home, just because of all that's happened. But in the eyes of the law, and now been confirmed by the courts, he legally defended himself, and now these people are still ruining his life. He spent the last 3 years suffering for defending himself legally. Seems like there's something wrong there, right? It seems like something is very wrong. You know, and I think like, you know, we all know what happened with, you know, during the trial where Gage testified in the trial that he was pointing his own weapon at Kyle before Kyle unbicepped him. He said that he didn't intend to fire, but as he had his hands raised, holding him towards him. What? He didn't intend to fire. You pointed at me. There's no, that is the intention to fire. When you point a barrel at somebody, you are intending to fire. That is what you are communicating. Okay, you didn't hold it down at your side. You pointed it in his face. What did you think was going to happen? You know, since being found innocent of all 5 felony charges, since then, victims and their families have brought forward separate lawsuits against him. The suit levied by John Huber, father of protester. Oh my God, he wasn't a protester; he's a piece of garbage. I think he was also. Which one was he again? The one that liked entering little boys against their will. Was he that guy? Was that JoJo, or was that the other guy? None of these people were good people. All right. It also claims that officers violated Huber's constitutional rights when they allowed the riots to erupt into violence. Are you kidding me? This is the most insane crap I've ever read in my life. You know, of course, President Biden, you know, called him terrible things. Some outraged celebrities went online to complain about the decision, with performer Bet Who Gives a Crap Midler saying it was a tragic day. Yeah, I'm sure that Bette Midler and her numerous private security agents, I'm sure if somebody was pointing a weapon in her face, she would just say, no, 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 no. Let him. Let him. Let him. BLM, LGBT shoot me. Like, is that what Bette Midler would have said? I mean, you know, again, so all of these, it's one of the wildest takes I've seen that transcends knowledge and is like the best example of tribalism. Like these tweets where it's like, we saw him end 2 people. You mean defend himself? All of these people expected, clearly by their responses, that Kyle just die. That's what they think. That they think that Kyle should have just let them end his life. They would have celebrated it too, by the way.
Oh yeah, there's an organization behind this
There's one
guy.
of these like popular reply guys to like, you know, here Grosskreutz testified that he pointed at Kyle before then teenager, protected himself, is seeking economic losses, damage for emotional distress. I mean, it's they don't have a case whatsoever. However, they are aiming to destroy
Hey,
his
freaking
life.
media.
You have this loser, like who's a weird, cringy
You see,
reply guy,
bud?
begging people
Trying to
to
get some work
foot the
done
bill
while
for your own
we're
legal
watching
mess
some
after
videos.
you kill people.
Now,
How
you were
in
up
hell
late
are
last
you?
night.
Like, are you an absolute idiot? How does this person have 600,000 followers? The idea that, yeah, people should help him with his give, send, go, because what's happening is the machine is funding these other lawsuits. I would suspect. Don't you? I mean, don't you think? Unless all these lawyers are taking it pro bono, perhaps these lawyers are taking it pro
Yeah,
bono.
but nobody can get
They're
a
also
real civil rights
activists,
lawyer to go
and
pro
they're trying
bono.
to, you
Or
know,
even
get famous, and they're doing the case for
on
free.
on
That could be
contingency.
part of it, but you know, Kyle still has to pay
They
his
all
law firm
want
to defend
$5,000 to
himself against these
$10,000
things.
down,
And you can't just take
especially
it.
for a
You can't
federal.
just go into any court case and be like, oh, I guess we'll just, you know, they don't have a case, so whatever. No, he has to use his law firm and pay them thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to defend him if this goes to trial. And then potentially you're still coming down to a jury who may not like you and may side with, you know, the person suing you, even if it seems insane. It's tough. You know, I think that Kyle was.
I stopped in front of the bail bondsman office on the way into work today and was recording in the front. There's dude's still not there, and some woman was working at the desk there, but the guy wasn't there. Yeah, I know you haven't heard anything from Monroe. I doubt you will.
Thrust into this. His pinned comment, by the way, his pinned tweet is his give, send, go. He says givesendgo.com/Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, I think it's good to see people are donating. That's cool. I hope people will, because
Not gay. Come on.
you know, he's I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but he's raised $117,000, which is amazing.
All right.
But like,
You guys can watch
these lawsuits are expensive.
Mushroom Manny
I
driving through
talked
the,
about even,
or not Mushroom Manny, but
Dean
Dean who's driving through the mountains and then cutting out every few minutes.
$1,000. And it's,
All right, here you go. Let me find something else. I didn't even know you were still here, Anna. It's the only reason I started playing this guy. Let's see. Let me try and find some good distance for all older video. I can play while I'm doing some work here. A lot of short videos. Feed the Need from a couple months ago. Ooh, let's talk suicide. Gay. You don't know what gay means? Gay. That's the YouTube appropriate way of saying gay. Super gay. Yeah, it's well. He's got another good story too, but there's a lot of other stuff we can have on here. Hang on. I don't know what's going on with Odyssey today. None of his content's loading. And none of his older stuff is loading. It's there, it just won't show. It's just gray screen. I don't like watching his YouTube stuff because he ends up cutting it off halfway through it anyway to go over to Odyssey full time or D Live. Why does this hold stuff like this? Click out. Ooh, this is 1 minute long, but this looks good. Did it even play? How to field dress a deer? So if your daddy didn't teach you, learn from somebody who knows. Yeah, not cool. Yeah. What's going on with Odyssey? Is it just his channel or is it? Weird. Oh, one of my the guys I was interviewing today was still failed to fetch comments. It's got to be Odyssey's issue about how bad Ant-Man was. He just saw that. Here we go.
Ant-Man being a complete disaster. It's not that it's losing money. It's the continuing decline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're all showing diminishing returns. And every time one comes out, the headlines are saying,
Oh,
well,
School?
the highest grossing film in the entire
You mean School?
franchise of Ant-Man. And it's like, yeah, but you're not dealing with the drop-offs that you dealt with back in the day with MCU films. Like, this is going to have a massive second week drop-off. It's underperforming overseas. Marvel's in trouble.
And that's the whole like access media as well as this kind of shield media. They always are going to try to like put sprinkle on a wad of shit.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be Odyssey. It's got to be Odyssey. I found something wrong. Not that. That. I like this guy.
Secretary hasn't gone yet. I mean, and now we know he's going tomorrow, but why wait so long, right? You know what the problem is. You're being told not to go. So it turns out that this isn't the first time the government has destroyed a town in the Midwest.
No, I understand. Public school.
West. And by the way, I should point out, you know, I have a bunch of reports this afternoon from people in the UK, and were sending messages to us telling us that because of the cloud, the wafting of this cloud, that, you know, it's now traveled east. Of course, it went through like Washington, D.C. People are saying based on the jet stream and so where it would have gone, people in the UK are reporting weird film of on their cars, like after rain.
I don't blame you.
On windows.
It's a fight worth fighting, though, Hannah.
Before.
Are they on that latitude?
I'm sure there's a lot of
I don't know. And again,
peculiarities
I'm just
with
reporting
it.
what they're telling.
Worth fighting in this day and
I
age.
mean, not that clouds follow latitude lines. I know.
Right, and whatever gets up into that jet stream. But anyway,
Right.
I would love to know if someone in the UK wants to actually test their windows or whatever residue is on there, you know, and let us know. But anyway, so it went airborne. It wafted hundreds of miles away. People described awful taste in their mouths, tingling lips, hundreds of miles away from this. Eventually, it'll drift away and dissipate. But of course, the chemicals in the ground and the groundwater will last decades. That's the real story here. It could render the town totally unlivable. Turns out this isn't the first time that the government destroyed a town in the Midwest. An entire town contaminated by dioxins in the soil and the drinking water. People dying early thanks to inexplicable cancers. Sound familiar? I have an idea where they came from, though, that maybe it could have been that plant down the street that was making Agent Orange. How about that? The government then decided to spray the whole town in Agent Orange. Yeah, we're just going to spray the whole town in Agent Orange, see how that goes.
Okay.
Smart move, government. The town of Times Beach, Missouri was the town. Just one of them. By the way, there was more. This is just one example I wanted to highlight here. The dioxins in the soil would years later have to be dug up and incinerated.
Yeah.
Incinerated. And likely the same thing is going to have to happen in East Palestine, Ohio. Ohio rendering the town, they're basically rendering this town useless in Ohio. So Truth Steam Media produced a great documentary on the Times Beach dioxin disaster. Here's a clip, watch.
When I was a little girl, I remember driving
Hey.
on I-44 with my mom past the desolate remains of what used to be Times Beach.
What
The
are we doing
streets sat
different for these
empty
rapid
save
cars?
for the dark, windowless husks of decaying, abandoned houses.
I don't. They
And she'd
changed
always
it, and
tell
then
me a
they're like,
story
okay,
about
never
how that
mind.
was where everyone had to be evacuated because of toxic waste contamination.
I don't
Even
get
though
it.
I was
It was
barely
working
old
fine
enough to
before. Is it not
understand what
working
that
now?
meant
Have you
at
tried doing
first.
one since they
Every
tried
time we
changing this?
drive by on our way out into St. Louis County
I'm
to
about
visit
to.
family, I'd get that tingly feeling in the pit of my stomach knowing we were going to pass by it. By 1985, Times Beach was disincorporated. evacuated, and quarantined, save for one elderly couple who refused to leave. The town wasn't demolished until 1992. More than 265,000 tons of tainted soils
Okay,
were
I'll try
incinerated
that.
at the site beginning in 1996, and by 1999, all was
I
declared
just love
well.
living
and
in
the
a
state
world
opened
of
up a Route
who knows if it's going
66
to work.
themed
I hope you get
park
paid.
where the town once stood.
I replied to that email you sent too.
So
That's that one
it's,
that
it's
was
amazing.
tripping
They don't
over
even really,
stuff
this
and then
Route
just punched out
66
and left.
museum, they don't even hardly comment about it
That
at
one
all. But
dude
here's
from
Route
Advance.
66. There used to be a
So,
town.
I mean, he
here.
came in Monday and they sent him right back to
Totally
me. I'm like, I don't know the deal. Tyler's not here. It looks
so
like
what will happen now? Perhaps
you just
like-
left before they could do a drug screen
Sorry,
on
I
you.
was just gonna
Bud.
say that's like
It's
the
like
theme
you're
park
staggering
where you're
around.
building your
I
housing
said,
build
then
on
when
a-
you
on a
tripped,
cemetery,
you
right?
decided,
I
oh
saw
shit,
that
I'm
happen at
going
Poker
to have
House.
to
Like,
drop now.
you know,
And you
like, who
took
would-
off. So
Who would decide that? I would
I
just
said,
leave it alone.
give us,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
have your
Well, and
service
that's
give us a
exactly
call
what happened
next
in
week
Love
when
Canal,
Tyler's
New York.
back.
It's
He
like,
can
okay,
decide
we're
whether or
gonna,
not
Pat,
to
here's an idea. We'll take what's left over from the Manhattan Project and we'll bury it right here, and then we'll build a town on top of it. See
yeah,
how
it
that
sounds
turns
like
out.
he was fucked up.
Didn't turn out very well for the people.
He didn't
who
seem
lived there.
surprised.
So, you know, the question is now, like,
Dude,
what
it's
happens
like
now in
it's
East
like
Palestine?
walking into my son's
And
house.
perhaps
Just walking along the
more of
line.
what we're already
It
seeing,
smells so
which is
dank.
cover up, denial, everything's fine, lies, distractions with other stories. I mean, President Biden flew to Ukraine instead of flying to Ohio.
And it's
That shows
been
you where
clown
his
world
priorities
this
are,
week
right?
with no Tyler there
Oh,
too.
the Associated
Everyone thinks
Press,
they're getting away with something.
sort of
I mean, I'm literally
congratulated
getting
them,
ready to
like,
walk
oh,
so
you
many
really
people off
pulled
the
this
show.
off. We didn't know you were coming. They snuck him out at 3:30 in the morning out of the White House. It was a surprise.
All right, well, I'll give that a
to
try.
all of us, and then he shut. That was
I'll try.
amazing. Thanks for that surprise for us.
Yeah, it's so amazing. 500, you know, another round of millions of dollars, like 500 million bucks, in addition to the 140 billion that we've already sent to Ukraine, because we have to make sure that Ukraine's railroads are state of the art and running on time. We have to make sure that all of that work that Hunter Biden did in Ukraine isn't for nothing.
But he could, Ukraine, such a war zone. He can walk around there freely.
He's fine walking around
Totally
there.
fine. Ohio, he
Thank you,
cannot go.
Putin.
Right.
Yeah, thanks
Putin's such
Putin
a
for
threat.
just like holding off on the, just hold off while the president's there, and then we'll sound the air raid sirens. Nothing's coming in. They haven't gone off once, but we'll sound them off now. But thank you, Putin, for holding back.
Yeah, no trouble. Yeah, Putin's such a threat that President Biden and his whole entourage can fly in there. No trouble at all there. So Biden won't go to Ohio. But what about Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, the man who's responsible for our rail infrastructure? When will he go? A reporter from the Daily Caller caught up with Mayor Pete last night to ask him that question while he was out for a stroll on the town with his husband. Watch.
Secretary, what do you have to say? Hi, how are you?
Good,
Jenny
how are
Tarr
you?
at the Daily Caller News Foundation. What do you have to say to the folks in Ohio, East Palestine, who are suffering right now?
Well, I've referred to about a dozen interviews I've given today, and if you'd like to arrange a conversation, reach out to the press office, but I'll have that conversation with you.
You don't have a message for them?
I do, and I shared it with the press many times today. I'd refer you to those comments.
Do you mind sharing it with us?
No, I'm going to refer you to the comments that I made to the press because right now I'm taking some personal time and I'm walking down the street.
Are you going down there?
What's that?
Are you going down there at all?
Yep, I am.
When are you going?
I'll share that when I'm ready.
Okay,
I'll talk
thank
to
you.
Can I get a photo?
Yeah.
Can I take a photo of you? So then he snaps a photo of her, the reporter. Like he's that threatened. I need to take a photo.
He's got to put the facial recognition in his system at home.
Right.
Yeah. I gotta
Hey,
find out who this
James.
person was,
Oh.
this vicious Daily Caller reporter asking
Like,
tough
you want to do it
questions.
selfie style? Let's do it that way.
Right. That's
We should keep an eye on.
Yeah,
him,
we just
actually.
generally just
That's
just
what I
leave a
was
text. That's
thinking.
fine, or a message. But
That was a
you,
little
you're not feeling well.
Snow. I'm telling you, everything feels like the
Oh.
Hunger Games. I need to give it a rest.
You do. You need to take a break from that. So Mayor Pete said multiple times, I refer you
Mhm.
to the TV interviews I did today for your answers. And he said it kind
Okay.
of smugly, like up to the 12 or so interviews I did today. Like your life is so tough that you sat on a
Okay.
chair and did television interviews. Like your life is so
Okay,
tough
okay.
compared to what people are going through in East Palestine, Ohio right now. He appeared on a bunch of
How long is
media
that
channels,
going to be for?
like ABC, CBS News. Here,
Okay.
here's ABC giving us consoling
Okay.
words.
All right. That's fine.
From
That's
Mayor
fine.
Pete, who says, "Hey, look,
Are they going to
don't
let
worry
you
about
come in
this
on
disaster."
Fridays?
I was a mayor of my hometown.
Okay.
8
I'll reach out
years.
to them and ask.
We dealt with a lot.
Well,
of
well, you can get your hours.
disasters. Watch.
The administration has come under some fire for its response. The mayor of East Palestine has said it took nearly 2 weeks for the White House to
Oh, it's up
contact
to him.
There were
I mean,
sons
if
of
things
Ruth
won't
B.
let you do that,
Buttigieg
that's fine.
at a town hall meeting last
Okay,
week.
cool.
What's your response to that?
All right.
When are you
Well,
gonna
yeah,
get
yeah,
to East
you did mention all
Palestine?
that. I apologize. I'm trying to get caught up.
Well, I am
and,
planning
making
to
sure your
go,
payroll goes
and
through
our folks were on the
first
ground
one stuff,
from
so,
the first hours. I do want to
hopefully it hits
stress
you by
that the
Friday.
NTSB needs to be able to do
Yeah,
its
have a
work
good one.
independently. But when I go, the focus is going to be on action. Look, I was mayor of my hometown for 8 years. We dealt with a lot of disasters, natural and human.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
want to stay out of the
Stephanopoulos
way of
is
the
disgusting.
NTSB, as if a transportation secretary is going to literally shut down the whole town. If a transportation secretary shuts down the infrastructure, then we have a problem, right? Like that he going there is a problem for the National Transportation Safety Board. Really? He's going there. And then, oh, by
Couldn't
the
he just
way, I
sneak
was
in?
mayor of my own hometown, and we had disasters. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
We had
risky
some
playing them on
stoplights that were
YouTube, but-
broken.
I
Nothing
mean,
like
he
this.
acts like it's gonna, like he needs a photer's guide to go and read up on this type of vacation. Like, oh, let me see what there is to eat there.
Yeah, I want to check the hotel situation first and the Yelp reviews. Go ahead, Phil.
I grew up about about 25, 30-minute drive from South Bend, Indiana. And my mom still lives about, 30-minute drive from there. And no, they didn't. Nothing even close to this caliber of disaster happened in South Bend. Not even close.
Okay, we call BS
maybe
on
some
that
heavy
one.
wind and snow, and that's it.
Yeah, he had some salt trucks that were delayed from getting the salt out during a snowstorm. So that's the disaster. We've had a lot of disasters. I can deal with this one. So when are you going to go? Well, it turns out we do know now that he's going to go tomorrow. He did announce just about 4 hours ago. We found out that he is going to go tomorrow after some hemming and hawing, but not before a lot of pressure from media and local media in particular that was pushing him on this. But here's CBS pushing him on this. When are you going to go, actually? Because this is like now how many weeks? February 3rd? I mean, what are you waiting for? In 19 days now? How long until you go? Didn't we learn anything from George W. Bush flying over Hurricane Katrina and looking out the window after being at a fundraiser with Arnold Schwarzenegger playing guitar on stage? Like, you go, right? If you're saying everything's fine, then show us without a hazmat suit on. Everything's fine. People don't have to worry. Go. Why don't you go and dig up some soil while you're there too? Here he is on CBS. Watch.
And you have said that you would visit East Palestine when the time is right.
No, I
But
haven't
it's
seen
been
it.
2 weeks since this derailment. When is the time right?
So I'm planning to go, and when I do, it will be focused on action, not on politics, not on show. In the early days, I have been
You don't know what that
respecting the role
means,
that independent
booty
NTSB
judge.
plays and staying out of their way, but we are now entering the policy phase of our response to this. And even as NTSB continues finalizing their work,
With no
this
FEMA.
is the right time for us to be looking at immediate steps from USDOT.
But, sir, you ran for president. You understand politics better than most, and you know the importance of showing up. So why not go sooner to show people on the ground the efforts being made by the administration?
Well, again, the administration was on the ground from day one. I have followed the normal practice of transportation secretaries in the early days after a crash, allowing NTSB to lead the safety work and staying out of their way. But I am very eager to have conversations with people in East Palestine about how this has impacted them. And again, when I'm there, the focus is going to be on results. It's going to be on work that needs to be done, because one thing I saw as a mayor dealing with multiple disasters is that there's two kinds of people who show up in the aftermath of a disaster. People who are there because they have a specific role to play, and they're there to play their role and do the work and help the community. And people who are there because they want to be seen being there and they want to look good. When I'm there, it's going to be about action.
Okay, good. No more political
Hey, he didn't-
stonts.
Action.
3
He
weeks
didn't ask me
later.
to send him a selfie after they were done.
Yeah, I need to take a picture of you for asking me that question. So then, but it was actually local news that was pushing the transportation secretary even harder than mainstream media. So here's a local station pushing him on this question. Watch.
So I'll follow that up with asking, will you be heading there?
I am planning to come. I've been careful to respect the independent role of the NTSB and stay out of their way. But we're now entering the phase where it's about policy. It's about what my department.
No, now it's about politics
So I
because you
love
fucked
the
up.
Continued reading off of a cue card. I'm going to go there. I'm planning to go, but I want to respect the individual, the autonomy of the NTSB. I want to stay out of their way. I want to keep staying out of their way. When I go, it's going to be about action. Like just repeating that same talking point on every news or every news station.
Thing.
Yeah, what does that even mean? Perhaps the clearest indication, though, of city's health is its real estate market, right? And do people want to move there or move away from a city as a result of it? In the case of Missouri, where dioxin poison destroyed the town of Times Beach, you won't find anything there because the town has been destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore. Trying to do a search on Zillow for Times Beach, Missouri, you'll find nothing. You won't find anything. But what about East Palestine? So I decided to take a look. So take a look at what Zillow prices are this afternoon in East Palestine, Ohio. Let's zoom in here on East Palestine. You can see a number of houses for sale and price drops. Number of price drops now. Now, this one's a little bit outside of the city. Here's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. You can see that's been on the market now for 7 days. They're trying to sell their house. They're like, oh, crap, we better get out of here. Here's others now. Here's a new construction, $499,000. Well, I wonder, here's one, the price drop. They just cut the price $25,000 on February 21st. I'm sorry, but on all these other houses that have been sitting on the market for 100 days or longer in this town. And by the way, 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $70,000.
I know.
I mean,
I was going to say that'd be almost $1 million out here.
Well, it's a steal, right? For like an investment property or something like that. But here, look, price cut $10,000, 61 days.
Get them for cheaper in
I'm telling you,
Detroit.
these homes are not going to sell now, unfortunately. And some of these homes that have been sitting on the market for 75 days, like we are in a housing crisis in the United States. We need 5 million homes. And the fact that these have been sitting here and are going to be sitting here probably forever, unfortunately, for these people.
Unless BlackRock is interested in some
rental properties.
Because there will be a town people still, I don't know.
It's really awful. Go ahead, Phil.
And that's the thing. Like, if you have to understand, it's like these people that live there now are stuck there.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna buy their property? Who's gonna move? Who's gonna want to move there? So they are literally stuck there unless they just happen to have enough cash lying around to buy another house. Which who does?
Right.
You know, they're trapped.
Yeah, and these houses, like that'd be a great investment property for someone. If someone's saying, I want to move there, I want to buy that for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $70,000 in a 7 out of 10 school district, like not bad. But now the school was like ground zero for where these chemicals were.
Right.
And the land, who's going to buy this? Who's going to move there? Who's going to sell it?
And probably a lot of these people saw their balance sheets go up during the pandemic when home values were surging. And now they're seeing that just sort of swept out from under them. So where they thought they may have had wealth inside their own primary home, they no longer do.
And a $25,000 price drop on a home that's
I'm down.
cheap already.
Right.
How much later?
Huge. And this is, I mean, just devastating for these people. Go ahead, David.
I mean, it'll have to be like 11 p.m.
There's
Eastern
another
time.
incident that I can't mention the incident because it'll start a hellfire. But there was an area where when the government was going in and trying to, get people to stop talking about things,
I don't
they
have to
paid
leave
off
this
houses.
office
They
till
paid off
6
a whole
p.m.
bunch of
Eastern.
houses. So you were talking about them getting $100,000. That's another
Good
bribe
time to
they
get
can give
money.
them is, hey, we'll pay off your house.
Yeah.
And you go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's exactly what
You
they'll
go
do.
somewhere else.
We'll buy your house, and then they're going to tear them down and burn them. That's exactly what's going to happen. So we'll see. Mayor Pete Buttigieg is heading to East Palestine, Ohio tomorrow.
Can't wait to see his outfit.
We'll see if anyone wants to take some selfies with him. But tomorrow, remember, he said it's all about action. So then maybe we'll find out what tests are being done on the soil, how much dioxin poisoning is there, and if he's going to be in a hazmat suit, which anyone who studies these chemicals knows is the only way to be safe and effective. So maybe that's why he wasn't going. So we'll see. Wait until that cloud blew out of the way before they went there. We've got more news to get to on this Wednesday. We're going to look at the anti-war rally in Washington, D.C. and how the mainstream media decided to go after that. And make some
I forgot to ask, did you hear anything about today's interviews at Synchron?
Your feelings hurt
About them coming in for orientation
because
tomorrow?
J.K. Rowling has a podcast where she is actually talking about being a
I didn't even
resilient
get an
person
email
and
after
being a
the
critical
interviews.
thinker. They want nothing to do with this, so they're telling you that she's transphobic. Also, I realized I've been saying her name wrong all along. It's not Rawling, it's rolling, like bowling.
Rolling.
I mean, should I reach out to him?
Rolling.
Yeah.
Just,
All right.
So
so
I
I mean, it's just
apologize.
one guy, but
That
he has to
and
know whether
much
or not
more
he has
coming
to
up
be there
here. So,
tomorrow.
but first, I want to tell you, it's if you're in your late, midlife,
All
you're
right, I'll just
starting to
reach out
feel
to her.
like you can't stay
Cindy,
in
and
shape,
then that
you know,
Leslie,
and you want that
the
body that you
her
used to
people, right?
have. Well, that's where Nugenix Total
All
T
right,
is
I'll
coming
copy
in.
on
They're
it.
offering a complimentary bottle of their testosterone booster. It's called, and you can go to all you need to do is text 213-213 and enter the keyword redacted. So here's the thing. If you know you're getting older, it's harder to work out, harder to feel like, a little bit like your younger self. Maybe you're getting a little bit of that dad bod, feeling a little less like your old self. You don't have time to work out, but you wanted that energy, the body you once had. Again, just text the word redacted to 231-231 to get a complimentary bottle, and you can try this out. If you want more energy to counter that negative physical effects of aging, Nugenix Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen will help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, get you better results at the gym, and help you look and feel like the man you really want to be. They contain man-boosting and key ingredients like Testofen has been validated in 5 clinical studies shown to boost free testosterone levels in men. And because Nugenix Total T boosts the essential free and total testosterone levels that the aging process robs, you're going to feel stronger, leaner, more energy and drive, and more passion as well. Your partner will notice the difference. While every product professes quality, many other products use generic ingredients that are often far less effective than the clinical grade. Not with Nugenix Total T. You get the same clinical potency levels that are used in the trials. It's the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. So right now, get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text 231-231 and you enter the keyword redacted. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text 231-231, enter the keyword redacted. Again, text 231-231, enter the keyword redacted.
Let us know when
Texting
you're
enrolls you in current
home,
automated text messages.
and we'll
Consent
set
not
it up
required to
for
purchase.
real quick
Usage and
afterwards.
data rates may apply.
Anna's usually always halfway here.
Well, the dust is finally settling on the first anti-war rally, perhaps one of the largest anti-war rallies in a long time, many, many years in the United States. Of course, the anti-war movement in the United States is virtually non-existent, but it was incredibly encouraging to see thousands of people descending on Washington, D.C. over the weekend for the Rage Against the War Machine rally. Dan Cohen, redacted correspondent, was there, gave a speech, got to take in the sights and sounds and get the media reaction of all of this. Dan, what was it like to be there? Good to see you. And we're in work shirts, so we're working today. Back to work, everyone.
Work shirts.
We didn't plan.
Yeah, this was no, we didn't. This was not coordinated matching effort. Just
we
totally
coordinated
organic.
this shit.
But Clayton, it was great. I mean, overall, the rally was very encouraging, very positive. It's remarkable to bring together all kinds of different people from various political backgrounds and stripes from all over the country in order to, I mean, we're facing nuclear war, which means human extinction. So the stakes couldn't be higher. So, it's just great to see people come out. And I mean, I met people from Ohio, California, Florida, Texas. People came from all over the country, met a lot of redacted fans, which was really encouraging. So thanks everyone who's watching, who gave their love and appreciation for what we do. We really appreciate getting that feedback in person. So overall, I just thought it was great, and I hope it's the kind of
Look at this. He's covering the same thing.
Welcome back to the Lackluster Channel. On February 3rd of 2023, a train traveling from Illinois to Pennsylvania carrying toxic materials derailed at around 9 p.m., seemingly due to a mechanical problem with a wheel bearing due to overheating. Security cameras caught video of the train 20 miles prior to the scene of the derailment, showing that the issue had been going on for quite some time, which suggests that the early notification systems that warn an engineer of a catastrophic failure was either ignored or malfunctioned. 20 of the train's 150 freight carriages were carrying hazardous materials. More than 50 of the train cars were involved in the crash, 10 of which were transporting toxic items. Authorities became worried that the site might experience an explosion, but were able to remove 5 carriages containing vinyl chloride. 3 days later, an EPA team conducted what they call a controlled burn of the remaining vinyl chloride by diverting the chemical into a trench and burning it off. Doing so released phosgene and hydrogen sodium chloride into the air, and residents were asked to evacuate. The governor of Ohio appeared to speak with the locals, during which a News Nation reporter, Evan Lambert, was reporting live on air. But shortly into his broadcast, he was asked to stop because his voice was competing with the governor's address.
Originally on Friday night, there was a controlled release of these chemicals as well. And we're actually being told right now that we need to stop broadcasting because this news conference is behind us and we're in the command center. So as we all listen back there and I listen here, you'll learn the latest. Nicole?
All right, Evan, we know that you're keeping an eye on all of that. We'll check back in with you later. Thank you, Evan.
After ending the live broadcast, the state police began to walk away, but Major General John Harris Jr., commander of the Ohio National Guard, appears to push Evan as he is asked to leave.
Yes, you want me to file charges on you right now? I am allowed to be here. You were told to shut it down, you continued on.
Yeah, phosgene gas is horrible.
You can go to jail. Sir, you want to go to
Used
jail
as a
for
war
criminal
chemical.
trespassing? Do you want to go to jail for criminal trespassing? Do you understand
how quickly our lawyers will get me out?
I don't care.
Sorry, can we
I don't care.
Let's talk outside.
Let's talk outside. Go.
Let's talk outside.
Come out the door.
Out the door. By other media right here. I'm going to listen.
I don't care. You're going to walk out the door.
I'm going to listen.
You're going to walk
Do
out
not
the door.
touch me.
Come on out, sir. You're going to walk out the door, or you're going to jail.
Do not touch me.
Sir, can we talk outside, please?
I am trying to
Talk
listen.
outside, please.
And he escalated with me. I am doing my job. This is covered by the First Amendment.
Excuse me, sir. I'm the building supervisor here. Please leave.
There you have it.
Despite being assaulted by a general, Evan is told to leave, and now, trading in their brown shirts for green, 2 officers grab him and take him to the ground.
You're going to stand outside. You all, or you're going to jail. Let's go. Let's go. You're under arrest. Under arrest.
I followed you too, Joe.
This is bad. Stop. What are you talking about? Stop resisting. Stop. Oh my God. Stop. You want to get this. I will. This is so bad.
Put your leg on your back. Lay flat, please.
You guys, he's a national correspondent. You cannot do this.
I'm a reporter with News Nation. It's all being recorded right now.
I hope it is. This is
Excessive
horrible.
work, because you can't talk to people about doing their jobs.
Oh my God, I cannot believe this.
Evan was charged with criminal trespass and resisting arrest, despite the video showing that General Harris initiated the altercation. The general later claimed that he put his hands up to avoid the reporter from bumping into him. This obvious lie comes directly from a man that is supposed to have incorruptible moral courage to fight for and defend the constitutional rights of all Americans. But despite his aggression
fucking
on the
National
free
Guard
press,
general.
General Harris 5 hours after his unlawful arrest, and just a few days later, all charges were dropped. The incident has been covered by every news agency you can imagine, despite the thousands of nearly identical arrests we see each year from the auditing community. You see, Evan is backed by a massive multimedia corporation, and his claim,
You know how quickly our lawyers will get me out?
I don't care.
couldn't be more upsetting. Evan should have never been arrested or even asked to leave. But more importantly, it shouldn't take a team of lawyers funded by $1 billion company to free a man when his civil rights are violated. In fact, you might ask, where are all the lawyers stepping up to stop this from happening to everyday Americans on a daily basis?
There's
The
no money
officers
in it,
seemed
that's
all
why.
too eager to take Evan down, though they likely knew that his claim of swift-acting lawyers was accurate. And seeing how they treat a man that they know they can't hold charges against, how do you think they feel about tackling you for exercising your rights? Evan will
scumbag.
likely receive a large settlement from this interaction, while others currently sit in jail for nearly identical incidents. But I digress. In this video, we see John Russell appear.
What's that?
Are you coming in for?
Yeah. Press, I'm live right now on TikTok. I was covering the governor.
I just so happened to meet John at a recent Q&A in East Palestine. During the event, John confronted Congressman Bill Johnson about the money he's taken from the railroad, while also claiming to represent the citizens of East Palestine.
I wanted to know what you think the Surface Transportation Board should do about precision scheduled railroad.
That's a good question. I'll take your question on board. I do not sit on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So I'm not familiar with that area. What they should do is stop
Why are you even
things
there?
like this from happening.
Did you vote to impose a contract on the rail workers?
That is not related to this crash here tonight. I'm not going to get into those kind of political questions here tonight. This is not about politics. This is about meeting the needs and concerns of the people in East Palestine. So
Thoughts
let's
and
address
prayers.
those questions.
Yeah, let's get our thoughts and prayers.
Related. Rail workers have been warning about something like this for a long time. They have been doing more work with less people, dealing with cuts across the board to safety, training, maintenance, staff. Also, the company can pile up a ton of money. And about that company money,
You've taken about 18,000 from Norfolk Southern PAC. Are you going to take money from Norfolk Southern going
Okay,
I lost his phone today.
We're done with the conversation. I just told you we're not going to talk politics here tonight. That's not what
Why
this
not?
is about, because we're talking about what's right for the people of East Palestine.
Do you think
So-
that's not a political issue?
this is what happens when you get a little too close to the truth with these guys. And I don't blame him for being uncomfortable, because right before we talked, he said this to a resident as she was grilling him to a crisp.
They don't own me. They don't own me.
Okay, but
I work for you. I don't work for them.
Sure you do.
It's likely that if John were falsely charged after being assaulted by a general, his charges would not have been dropped yet. At the time of this writing, it's been nearly 2 weeks and less than 30 private wells have been tested for the presence of volatile chemicals. And that leads us to a lot of different conspiracy theories surrounding the train derailment, the subsequent toxic spills, fires, and other incidents
let's
that
set up a
followed.
game. We got
Is
enough
there a
people in
plot
here
to
now.
harm us? Maybe, but the more likely answer to the issues we're seeing is corporate greed. In fact, just weeks prior to the derailment, union workers were about to impose a nationwide strike, which would have stopped Norfolk Southern in its tracks. But Congress moved in and made the unions accept a deal by passing a bill that forces the rail employees to work, despite having few of their demands met. And guess who takes money from Norfolk Southern, the very company responsible for this catastrophe?
Members of Congress.
John Russell also happened to speak to some of the rail workers just 7 weeks prior to this derailment about the impact to safety that comes along with Congress forcing them out of a strike.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, or they've cut the track gangs too short and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmans, which is the union that works on the rail
15 minutes after the hour,
So
we're
John,
going to set it for.
why do incidents like this keep happening?
Disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. They're betting that the corporate media,
Game's up.
under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.
Finally, if this is your first time hearing about this incident or have heard very little about it, there's a really dark reason why. Norfolk Southern is mostly owned by a few companies, BlackRock and Vanguard. Those two companies also happen to show up as the largest shareholders at Fox, CNN, ABC, CBS, Comcast, and likely most companies you can possibly think of. In fact, it's easier to search
Not
for a
just
list
this
of
country
companies
here.
that Vanguard and BlackRock don't own to find answers. And that means that when one of their companies creates a disaster that could potentially affect millions of people, they also get to be the ones to tell you who is or isn't responsible, or even how much or little attention that incident gets on the air. And we haven't even touched the money they spend in politics. And even though they technically own most of YouTube, it's more important now than ever before to source your information from private sources with no ties to these massive corporations. So to learn more about the chemical side of this catastrophe, check out That Chemist for a deeper look into the state and federal responses. Check out John Russell and Nick Drum.
The Ohio EPA director, she was an attorney for a power company before she was the head of the EPA. She's appointed by Governor DeWine, a corporate lawyer with an MBA running the EPA.
In the end, if I can leave you with any hope, it would be to tell you that the public turnout for this incident has been overwhelmingly positive. Humans aren't afraid of hardship. On the contrary, we thrive on it. But one of the largest afflictions in modern society is feeling unnecessary. In fact, I think our culture has refined the process of making our fellow men and women feel worthless and invisible. It's both a disturbingly sad and a very beautiful thing.
Morris.
But a catastrophe like this really
The
brings
Eagles
people
landing.
together. As humans, we're way more tribal than we accept, and the turnout for the
Rockefeller,
community,
Standard Oil.
from the community, has been incredible.
Rockefeller?
I know this veered from the type of content that I normally produce, but if you enjoyed it, or even if you hated it, let me know in the comment section so I can continue to improve.
You can do this. This is a phone. I'm on TikTok. I have a mullet and a mustache, right? I'm not different than you. When you go up and ask members of the government these questions, you can see how they respond. So.
I appreciate your question, young man. If you ever feel an orange, you know, when you're making an orange where you're seeing, get away from behind it. That hurts you.
What?
East Palestine. For the documentary.
A reporter should be allowed to report live or to tape or whatever they want to do anywhere in this press conference. That happens frequently. There'll be a press conference going on and someone wants to report live. They want to go up. They have every right to do that. So I don't know what happened, but we will certainly find that out. You know, I don't know.
And then he sat in jail for 5 hours. You're full of shit.
It has always been my practice that if I'm doing a press conference, someone wants to report out there and they want to be talking to the people back on the channel.
He's being dragged out of the building at this time.
So, you know, that should not, if that someone was stopped from doing that or told they could not do that, that was wrong. And it was nothing
Your
that
general.
I authorized, and certainly it would be something that I would not want to see happen. This happens, you know, we do this, I do this all the time. And yeah, so I'm certainly very, very sorry that happened. I don't know all the facts, but he or she, whoever was arrested, had every right to be reporting and do what they do every single day.
We saw one of the gentlemen that was wearing one of the National Guard uniforms grab him up by his chest. Is that a way that you would want to see someone?
No. All I can say is that person had a right to be reporting. They should have been allowed to report. If they were in any way hampered from reporting, that certainly is wrong, and it's not a thing that I approve of. In fact, I vehemently disapprove of it.
Can he be allowed to
But-
come back and do his job until he's doing his story?
He's literally
As far as
sitting
I'm
in jail
concerned,
at this
we
point,
can,
or was on the way to jail.
Once I move away from the mic, or maybe we can find out.
Yeah,
let
they
me
did
see
nothing.
Who I've got out here.
He sat in jail for 5 hours.
Okay, I don't think a director of health can do that. Let me just see.
And then it was forgotten.
Let me see what is going on.
Crazy. Have you ever peeled an orange? What? What?
Joy Reid says, it went about as you expected it to go. Like, oh, really? Like what? What? We don't have any modern history of anti-war rallies, so how do we expect it to go? Well, we know how we expect the mainstream media to cover it. That went about as expected. In fact, I spoke to one of the organizers a few days before the mainstream media was coming, and he told me that a bunch of the mainstream media organizations were coming there. And I said, that's great. I wonder what their angle will be. And now we know what their angle will be. So,
Well, I expect them to collect a lot of data on those people's phones, like the CIA did around anti-war movements in Vietnam,
Right.
in and around those wars.
Just me and 357 right now.
Those of you who showed up,
Room's open.
hope you used a VPN. We'll tell you about a good one later on. But you know, like there's nothing here that feels ideologically safe to say if it's not pro-war any longer.
that's what the mainstream media wants.
15
We've
minutes.
got more news to get to on this Wednesday. We're going to talk about how the media wants you to be weak and wants you to be weak, wants you to be weak-minded.
And have your feelings hurt.
We're also going to talk about the vaccine adverse events, and we have new data out today that we're going to talk about with investigative journalists.
Hey, frickin', this is the basement I was in when I heard the call come out with the bail bondsman. sitting down here, and I heard the name of the person calling in. What happened?
So experts are predicting a recession right now, and it's, you know, a lot of people are arguing
Oh God,
that it's already.
Sell some gold. Let's sell some gold. It's not. Let's not sell gold. Let's get in the poker game. Where you guys at? We got time for one quick game. Where's the vine? Ooh. Okay, that's through Spotify. It's supposed to be copyright-free music. Royalty-free music. Play in the background. I need volume. It's so fucking loud. None of these have volume. They want to blast it. All right. Since she's not here, I want to see this. Jeremy, the quartering, is giving an apology to his viewers.
Jeremy here from The Quartering. You may have heard of it. You are watching this video. I apologize. I think I have allowed myself to get a little too reckless with the infighting. I don't regret criticizing certain things, you know, with other content creators, maybe not mentioning certain top, you know, guests of their show, or maybe, but I don't think it's good right now. I think it's good for views. People love watching it. You know, the channel's been booming. It's better than ever. It's been amazing. Your support has been amazing. But I think we've reached that tipping point where I need to just chill out a little bit. And I think the reason I'm really feeling this way is because there's something weird. There's some weird energy out there. Do you feel it? Do you feel it a little bit where, you know, some people, again, I'm not a conservative commentator, but I am not a non-left commentator. So in the non-left commentator space, there's some weird vibe going on. We had, you know, I'm nervous because I've never really been a channel that's relied on other content creators or collaborations.
You do the dose.
So I've
you
never
think,
really cared if someone
on
likes
vacation?
it or not. The only people I care about enjoying my content is my viewers.
He's weirding out.
I am nervous as I see what happened to James and PV. Essentially, biggest story of the company's history. Boom, he's pushed out with spurious complaints about he spent too much, you know, he the worst thing they said about him is that he could have spent a little bit of like 15 grand of company money on a personal trip. Whatever. Okay. I don't actually care about that. Then you had obviously the you know, the Tim Pool versus everybody kind of thing. And then this whole like Matt Walsh thing kind of kicked off, and it felt so normal at the time to just be like, oh, ha ha ha, let's get into this, you know? And then I started like really looking back, and it's like, man, it's been Tim, then it was Matt, then it was, you know, PV, Crowder, and Daily Wire. When this is really a time that we should be galvanizing, that we should be working together, because even when we're super galvanized, we still take a ton of L's. And so in a time where, you know, we have a really important election coming up, we have really important cultural issues to discuss, defeat, We literally can't afford any infighting. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having. I'm not saying like don't criticize other content creators or don't criticize people that you watch. You all have no problem criticizing me, and that's what I appreciate. But also, it might be, um, it might just be time to take a little break from that. Let some things go. Oh, I didn't like the way you did this video. Maybe just not worry about it. I think that you should hold your peers to the same standard that you hold your foes to. I have never seen or had a single problem there, with criticizing people that are viewed as, on my side. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm not going to stop doing it, but I think maybe we need to let the boil come back down to a simmer. And there is no bigger uh, poo stirrer in the space than me. So I I'm there's just no denying that. It's fun. Um, but like it's time to find some different targets. I think the work that my fellow content creators are doing, whether they're at Daily Wire, whether they're independent like Crowder, whether they're independent like myself or other content creators, most of us, um, I think there is value in holding them accountable, but also like sometimes there is a cause bigger than that. And right now, I think it's actually trying to win. Um, I've become, I think a lot of people, a big criticism people have outside of the drama farming is that I'm too soft. And maybe they're right. I don't know. I don't have all
9
the
minutes,
answers,
guys.
but I do
Just
know
me and
this.
357 right now.
The war is
Boss,
upon
the
us,
boss is in here too.
and
Okay,
we
never
need
mind. Boss of the
to
Hug's in here too.
galvanize. I'm thinking like I might just scrub my Twitter today completely and just get back to be really pointed at
Should
pointing
never
out
delete tweets.
the left's insanity and really just focusing on that. I think and also if I can't stay out of trouble on Twitter, I'll just not use it because I think that
Bullshit.
I have 50 or 100,000 active viewers. We could really do a lot of good, but it doesn't happen when I'm constantly making you have to choose between who you watch, right? Like you shouldn't feel bad watching Tim Pool or Matt Walsh or anyone else that I've even beefed with because that's just irresponsible of me to put you in that position. So I apologize for that. Um, it's fun for a while, but then I've kind of been slowly realizing that the juice isn't worth the squeeze there. It's, I'm still going to criticize people when I believe that they need it. I just think my threshold's going to have to be higher, and not everything is worth starting a war over, at least amongst the people that, are working towards the same general goal. I think, um, I think that, this time away, I've had a lot of people think like on Twitter that I'm totally relaxed. I've never been more relaxed in my life. I've never had more clarity than right now. And I've still got plenty of time to get even more clear. But I think that it's wild out there.
He's
It's
hanging out with Luke
spooky
Radowski
time
down in
out
Florida,
there
so I
in
think
the
he's catching some advice from.
non-establishment world, and I'm starting to believe maybe there are some weird forces going on behind the scenes that are sowing discontent, that are in the Twitter replies, whipping up people, egging them on to be more divisive. Um,
I haven't even
I'm
looked
gonna
at
be
Twitter in a
me.
while.
I'm still,
Although I'm
I'm not gonna
streaming on
be
it right
some
now
super rigid guy. I'm still gonna make mistakes. But what I
because I
can
fucked up the
pretty
Rumble
much be confident
setup.
that I can commit to is chilling out a little bit on worrying about every little thing that maybe somebody on quote unquote our side does that I disagree with. I think it's okay to point that kind of stuff out. Maybe even in private would be better, but the end result of it is a divided audience, which I don't want, and losing. Quite frankly, that's the end game of the infighting, is that we lose. And I can't lose sight of that. That's why I started this YouTube channel. It all started when I got canceled and excommunicated from the Magic the Gathering community. And I can't lose sight of how that felt. And the people out there who have high expectations of me to stay on task and to push things forward. And I've never been more motivated. I mean, I have a huge project rolling out that I haven't talked about, but I've been working on behind the scenes with like real reporters and, other stuff like that I'm excited about. And we are going to need everybody to stand a chance in this fight. And so I'm going to do better at not dividing people. So I appreciate you sticking it out with me. I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope that we'll continue to fight together for a very long time. And look, I didn't even mention coffee in this video. I definitely didn't say anything about going to coffeebrandcoffee.com and buying anything, but I kid. So I really appreciate
Yeah, there's
you.
no deleting from the internet.
Thanks for putting up with all my drama-lominous, and I look forward to fighting side by side for a very long time together.
I mean, very little courage. And, having flown into war zones a number of times, both Iraq and Afghanistan.
It's not a war zone.
As a member of the Senate, was there moments that it was weird? Yes, but there was always a sense that you're surrounded by the United States military. You're enveloped by the United States military. When that Air Force One.
Good. Well, she had to throw that in there. She's also quite courageous herself. Biden is way more courageous than Trump, they say. This very much has the whiff of like my dad could beat up your dad type of thing. That's basically what this is. Meanwhile, we're supposed to believe that there was like any chance at all that Biden would be a battle casualty. That's what we're supposed to believe. That there was even the smallest chance that they were putting the President of the United States in a position where he could be killed by Putin, as if they'd ever take that chance. Then again, as I say this, maybe they would. I mean, the Democrats are desperate to find someone else for 2024, after all. Not to start any fresh new conspiracy theories. But the point is that this was more pageantry meant to puff up this Ukraine war, with Biden visiting, by the way, while a town in Ohio is still dealing with being poisoned after a train derailment. I mean, we have massive
3 minutes,
problems. We
guys.
can't even keep our trains.
We got Joe,
operating.
me,
So
Boss the
that's
Hug,
another
and
problem.
357.
Not to
Anyone
mention
else?
Porter and everywhere else, and Biden is going to Ukraine instead. Here's what he tweeted about it. He said, 1 year later, Kyiv still stands. Ukraine stands. Democracy
He still
stands.
plays it, but it's.
America and the world stands.
I mean,
with
he
Ukraine.
came up in gaming.
Well, no, America doesn't. D.C. does. Washington, D.C. stands with Ukraine. America doesn't, because America is comprised of people. And the majority of people don't care one way or another about Ukraine, and there's no reason why they should. And still, to this moment, opponents of America's involvement in the Ukraine war, the people that want us to continue sending billions of dollars over there and weapons, and the people that are pushing for even more involvement, potentially boots on the ground and all the rest of it. Still, I mean, these people have had now a year to come up with some kind of cogent argument for why we should care about this, and they still can't do it. This is the best they can do. What you just read in that tweet. Democracy stands. That's it. That is still the entire argument. Now, when this first started happening, you heard warnings about how, no matter how you feel about Ukraine, America might have to get involved here because Putin, he's not going to stop at Ukraine. He's going to try to invade all of Europe, and he's going to, we heard all this kind of stuff, and that hasn't happened. And it's not going to happen. That's just not a plausible scenario we have to worry about Putin trying to take over the world. So that hasn't happened. And instead, that means that they're stuck with this. They're stuck with shilling for the Ukraine war on the basis of freedom and democracy. Never mind the fact that, yet again, the Ukrainian government is not a beacon of freedom and democracy. It's one of the most corrupt governments in the world. And even if it was, there are billions of people all throughout the world.
Here we go.
Freedoms are being infringed upon.
4 of us.
To include people that live in this country, by the way. I mean, after what we just went through with the COVID lockdowns and everything, we know how precarious our own freedoms are. versions of that happening all over the world, and people that are in really difficult spots all over there are wars and conflicts and larger powers trying to impose themselves onto weaker powers and weaker people. That's happening all over the globe. And so why is this specifically the one area that we have to be interested in? Why should this matter to us more than what's happening anywhere else? They can't explain it. All they have, even now, after all this time, all they have are bumper sticker slogans about standing for freedom and democracy. And that's the kind of thing that might have been compelling to a lot of Americans, 20 years ago, but it hasn't been for the past 2 decades. Because we've seen quite enough of American money being spent, and more importantly, American lives being lost in pursuit of defending, quote unquote, freedom of other people in other parts of the world, who very often, as it turns out, aren't even interested in our idea of freedom. Closer to home, this is from the Washington Examiner, reports it's President's Day, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's got a plan. Instead of celebrating the birthdays of America's founding fathers, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, America's founding fathers, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. That's the way the Washington Examiner frames it. Anyway, the Georgia GOP firebrand is calling for a national divorce, tweeting that red and blue states need to separate and go their own ways. She's also advocating shrinking the federal government. We need a national divorce, Green tweeted. From the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America last politics, we are done. And so that's it. She tweeted about the national divorce, and obviously there's the expected freak out over this. And what's even more expected is that the freak out deprives us of any chance to have an interesting conversation about it, at least on a national level. And what I'll say about it, and it's not every day that a member of the United States Congress actually floats the idea of a national divorce. I mean, I'm not sure when's the last time it happened, after the Civil War. I'm sure it's happened before, but it's an uncommon thing. So that is noticeable. Although she's not the only person to talk about it. And it's a sentiment that I understand. I've expressed similar sentiments myself many times, going back years. And that's why I say it's something worth discussing. Like, if we were capable of being adults and just having a conversation, it's not a crazy thing to talk about. Because it is true that, as I talk about all the time, the divide in this country and in our culture is deeper and wider and more unbridgeable than it's ever been in American history. And that includes the Civil War. I'm talking about the ideological divide. When you have two sides, and it's not as simple as two sides because there are factions on the different sides and everything, but just speaking.
Yeah, I figured you had something after that last one came up.
That do not share anything. Like, we have nothing in common. We have no shared values whatsoever. And I've gone through this exercise several times in the past of just asking people, like, what do you think? Can you name one shared value that binds Americans together? One thing we can agree on? And I'm talking about fundamental, basic things. And there really is nothing.
I'm going to use his phone number again.
You want to answer, well, we all believe in freedom. But that clearly is not the case. Or at the very least, that will raise the question of, okay, what is freedom? How do we understand that term? And then you find out that for a lot of people, they say they value freedom, but for them, freedom means, for example, mothers killing their children. That's the kind of freedom they talk about. And it means children being liberated and freed from the clutches of their parents by an overarching federal government and a school system that steps in between them and severs the bond between parent and child. That's what they mean by freedom. So we don't have freedom in common. We don't have anything in common. And that is a serious problem, and one we should be talking about. What is it that binds America together? We are people, but in what sense are we a people? And it would
flush.
Seem like the only thing is just the borders that we all happen to live within the same borders, but then of course those borders are being erased, so we don't even have that anymore. So what's left? And it's not crazy then talking about national divorce, but the problem is one of geography. It's a simple logistical problem that I think makes a plan like this totally unfeasible. It can't happen. It's an issue of geography. Yeah, there is a deep and unavoidable, unbridgeable ideological divide, but that divide is not reflected by the geography of the country. There are not clear geographical dividing lines between the two sides. You know, it's not, we talk about red and blue states, but that is a massive oversimplification. Because even in the reddest of states, you have most of the time the big cities are going to be deep blue. And even in blue states, you have pockets of the state that are red. So how exactly do you divide all this? Like who gets Texas, for example? I mean, every state you could do this. So there's just no way. That if you could divide things geographically that easily, if we could say that, well, you know, we've got this deep ideological divide, and most of the people who are on the right side of that divide live in these states, and most of the people that are on the other side live in those states. If you could say that, then I think it becomes very practical, and we should really be considering the national divorce strategy. But that's not the case, and so I don't see how it works. Where do we go from there? Like, what's a better strategy? I don't know, but that's why I said we should be talking about it, and talking about it in a frank and, you know, uncomfortable way. Nobody wants to think of their country this way. We don't want to think of our country as one that is like where we say the word United States of America. We don't want to think that we are united in name only. We might not want to think about it, but it is the case, and we need to confront that. I wanted to play this clip too. Larry Hogan is the former Maryland governor and is gearing up for a presidential run, we think, that's sure to earn him as much support as probably, he'll get as much support from the Republican base as Michael Bloomberg got from the Democrat base in 2020. It's going to be about on par with that, which is to say no support at all. But here's Larry Hogan going after Ron DeSantis over the weekend.
My question to you is not whether this is a legitimate issue to be talking about. It's about whether this is the main issue or not.
Sorry, I'm sending up an email.
Is the main issue for 2024.
No, I think it's an important issue, and I do hear it. And people are concerned about this as I travel around the country because, you know, most people just don't think we should be talking about, you know, things like sex to young kids, and the parents want to be more involved in the decisions about what their kids are being taught. However, you know, I think some of this rhetoric is, you know, demanding that things be done a certain way, or that you can't say this, or you can't say that. We've got to be really careful.
I know. Does it feel like you're going the other way? Like it's sort of like you're on one hand, you've Governor DeSantis claiming, hey, I don't want all of this, but I'm going to tell you exactly what you can say, and I'm going to tell you what you can't say.
Well, I'm a small government, you know, common sense conservative, and to me, it sounds like big government and authoritarian. You have to agree with me, and I'm going to tell you what you can and can't do. So, but it's an issue. It's not the most important issue. I think more people are concerned about the economy, inflation. They're concerned about crime, but education is one of the things that we've got to talk about.
Yeah, this is. I mean, this is. You put him in the same camp as Nikki Haley or these other Republicans that are looking at jumping into the 2024 race. They're going to run campaigns that might have had a chance in 2008. That's especially the case for Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, I know we're not talking about Nikki Haley, that was Larry Hogan, but they don't exactly look the same. But Nikki Haley would have been a formidable Republican nominee for the presidency in 2008. But it's not 2008 anymore, and so she's not anymore. And Larry Hogan's in the same kind of, just kind of your milquetoast, whatever, moderate Republican thing. And he doesn't even have the courage to just say what he really thinks. And what he really thinks is that he doesn't care at all about education. He doesn't care at all about what kids are taught. He doesn't care at all about anything that has to do with the culture, any of the so-called social. He just doesn't care about that. But he doesn't want to say that. So instead he says, well, it's an issue we should talk. It's an important issue. It's not the most important issue. It's and there are both sides to this, and there are two sides. People care much more about the economy. People do care about the economy, but they don't care more about the economy than they care about their kids and their kids' education. Like, people wake up in the morning and, yeah, they're worried about how they're going to pay their bills, but they're also and primarily worried about their children and the future that their children are going to have. And so that's like the most deep-seated concern that an American has, especially a parent has.
An H at the end.
And this idea that it's, well, I'm not a big government conservative. I'm a small government conservative. That's nonsense, first of all. That's the other thing about these establishment Republicans. They all describe themselves as small government. All they ever do is expand the government. That's all they ever do. I mean, we've had so many small government conservatives that go into the White House, they're elected to Congress, they end up in governor's mansions, and they don't do a single damn thing to actually actively shrink the size of government. They just don't. All they do is expand it. And Larry Hogan's the same deal. The small government conservatism is it's another bumper sticker slogan that he uses, and it doesn't even make any sense in this context. We're talking about public schools. These are government facilities. So let me see if I understand this correctly. The person who runs the government in the state, the executive of the state is the governor. For him to exercise any control over what's being done in the schools, which are government facilities, that's big government. They are government facilities. Now, if you want to argue that the existence of the public school system to begin with is a symptom of big government, and we should get away from the public school system entirely and dismantle it, burn it to the ground and dance around its ashes, if that's what you want to argue, then now you're singing my tune. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying that the small government, so the public school system is great. Government facilities where kids are brought and indoctrinated. But if anyone, whether it's Ron DeSantis or anybody else, including private citizens, if anybody criticizes or scrutinizes what's happening in those government facilities, then we become proponents of big government. It's completely and totally incoherent. But what else can you expect from these people? Let's get now to the comment section. All right. So first of all, I have to tell you that I did learn a valuable lesson over the weekend. And the lesson that I learned is to not let my kids throw axes at my faces. And my wife came home with this, it's actually a great toy. It's a toy Velcro. It's an axe throwing toy, but the axes have Velcro on them. And of course, the first thing I thought is that we need to have someone stand in front of the target so that the axes can be thrown like around their head. It's like a danger act, that you see on America's Got Talent or something like that. And I thought that's what we should do. Of course, my kids volunteered me as the first victim in this game. And here's the brief replay on that one. Let's watch that.
Go, Joe.
Supposed to try not to hit me. I've watched that replay a few times, and this is starting to feel flagrant and intentional. I have to be honest with you. She put that axe right between my eyes. And some people have asked me, why did I think that was a good idea to do? And the answer is, I never said it was a good idea. It was just an idea. This is the fundamental confusion that people have about me, maybe about men in general. Not that all men would make themselves the target for an axe throwing game. I'm not accusing all men of that. I just mean that we don't need to think that something is a good idea in order to do it. We could know that it's a bad idea and do it anyway. Sometimes the fact that it's a bad idea is what makes it appealing. And that's not that I'm totally undiscerning when it comes to these things. In fact, I have matured a little bit. I feel like I have to reclaim my pride a bit and tell you that, for instance, 2 weekends ago, I took my machete out to help my son clear a path in the woods behind our house. He's building a fort, and he wanted me to help clear a path to his fort. And so I look for any excuse to use the machete because it's a lot of fun. And so I did. And I briefly briefly felt the urge to try to impress my son by flipping the machete in the air and catching it on the handle. And of course, I would make sure he was nowhere near. And I briefly had that urge. But I didn't. I didn't do it. I didn't bring it up either, because I know if I brought it up, then he would try it. So the thought crossed my mind. And if this was 20 years ago and I had a machete, someone was dumb enough to give me a machete 20 years ago, and I had that thought, I would have just done it. And I wouldn't have a hand to it. But I didn't. I said, that's not a safe thing to do. And now I just stick with, I satisfy my urges for dangerous stunts by using styrofoam axes. So I think I have grown, I think, is what I'm trying to say. All right, Stacy says, Matt, we've all seen way too many sci-fi movies. Also, Matt, desperate for an alien invasion. Well, yeah, it's Exhibit A. I don't deny that. So when I criticize people for watching too many sci-fi movies and then imagining that Siri or whatever, some AI chatbot's going to take over the world, that they've seen too many sci-fi movies, that leads them to that conclusion. I fully admit that I have watched way too many alien invasion movies. I mean, I've watched any movie that involves an alien invasion or people encountering aliens. I've watched them all, and I am very much influenced by that, and I don't deny it at all. Doesn't mean I'm wrong, though. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Let's see. Evan says, I'm not worried that AI is turning into a mediocre woman with a liberal arts degree. I'm worried that society is actually run by a bunch of mediocre women with liberal arts degrees. Well, I think you're right. And actually picking up on that theme, this kind of brings me to my thought about this AI stuff and the concern that, AI and robots are going to become human. They're going to become sentient and conscious and self-aware, and they're going to take over the world. I'm less concerned about that than I am about it going the other way. See, I think that's what we have to worry about. It's not humans. It's not robots turning into humans. It's rather humans turning into robots, effectively. I think that's what's happening. And we're already sort of seeing that with people who, they carry the phones around. They can't be without them. They're staring at the phones. All the words are totally dependent on the screens and everything. It's like basically becoming these programmed robots. You can't even drive, 5 minutes down the street to Walgreens without using your GPS. Like we are turning into, we're sacrificing much of what makes us human and becoming robots ourselves. So I think it's not as it's not as cinematic of a prospect, but I think that's what's actually happening. Thomas says, there are moments when Matt disses someone. It's so true and so cold, and you feel it in your soul. Chelsea took a hit on that one. Yeah, she did, but she started it. Remember that. She started it. And I do think this idea that the other person is saying, well, they started it. The idea that that's not a good excuse. I mean, sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. Like if someone starts an altercation, then they started it. I think it's perfectly valid to point that out. And finally, Kitty Foods says, someone got an F on their science fair project because the federal government shot it down. Yeah, that's in order for Joe Biden to salvage his own pride and his own ego, he's out there shooting down science fair projects that people have worked very hard on. I find that really offensive. It's no secret that the left hates our country, wants to rewrite history, and even our children's books, as we've already reviewed. They villainize our heroes and omit key details from the historical record, like the fact that on Christmas night, 1776, George Washington only crossed the Delaware River in a sneak attack against British forces after shaving with a Jeremy's razors. That is a historical fact. Few people know that. It's a sad reflection of our great nation going woke. But like Washington before us, you can fight back against woke tyranny simply by picking up a magnificent Jeremy's razor during our 30% off President's Day sale. It's time we celebrate history, not cancel it. So unless you want our founding fathers renamed to our founding non-birthing parents, go to jeremysrazors.com today and get 30% off any razor. That's jeremysrazors.com today. Now let's get to our daily cancellation.
Nice straight.
Okay, so it's been a week since my brief but now infamous segment on this show about trans activist Dylan Mulvaney. The tweet with that clip has been viewed nearly 20 million times on Twitter alone. Doesn't count all the other platforms where it's been shared and reposted. As you know, all I did in the segment was speak honestly to Dylan and about Dylan, a man who degrades and appropriates womanhood while shilling for child mutilation and sterilization. It does all of it for profit. Real women have tried to tell Dylan how demeaning his woman face routine is, but he only doubles down on the mockery in response. And most recently, he released a video bragging about what an attractive woman he is and warning women that he could steal their husbands, quote unquote. And this was a video that provoked my response, in which I simply told him the plain and unvarnished truth about himself, that he is not a woman, that he doesn't look like one, that the whole degrading display is not beautiful or remotely attractive, that he is imitating something he will never truly be. In other words, I said out loud what most people already think. But some of those people, the ones who agree with what I said and were already thinking it, were nonetheless very upset by my remarks, and perhaps upset is an understatement. They've called me mean and cruel and sadistic, and this has been going on for a week now with no sign of letting up. They've called me a bully and a grifter. They've said that I'm only hurting the cause by being so repulsively honest. And remember, these are people on the right, or at least not openly on the left, saying this. Now, I've already addressed the critics on the show, but the criticism has only gotten louder and more intense since then. And many conservatives in media, or at least, again, people in media who do not identify as leftists, have joined in the dog pile. And what began as a 3 or 4 minute commentary on Dylan Mulvaney in the middle of an hour-long podcast on Tuesday has now turned into something of a demarcation, kind of a dividing line. It's been a very revealing moment, enlightening.
Ain't no mercy.
And I think for that reason, it's
You're a little bit late, man.
one more time, so that I can
Game's
make,
going.
or perhaps reiterate or emphasize a few crucial points. In order to frame those points, I'm going to play a quick montage of some right-of-center media figures and podcasters
You go ahead, guys.
sharing their criticisms of my Mulvaney comments. And what you'll hear in these clips doesn't come close to representing the harshest rebukes that have been directed at me, but they do capture the basic point that all of my critics have been trying to make in one form or another, with varying levels of outrage.
Go ahead, this later.
Listen.
It wasn't that good.
Well,
He was just being mean.
well, I was gonna say, like, what he is saying is actually genuinely, like, really mean. Parts of
Yeah.
the whole thing is true. Like, it's not like it's untrue. It's not like Dylan Mulvaney is a male, and he will always be a male. And no
Yeah.
matter how much makeup or face feminization or whatever, you'll always be a male. This is like a reality. I have a lot of contempt for these people, like a lot of contempt.
You're talking about like woman face people. You're
Yeah.
not talking about Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I sometimes have contempt for Matt, but less often than I have contempt for Dylan Mulvaney. I get where he's coming from, because like I have so much contempt for these people, and the more that this drags on, and the more that they denigrate females, the more that anybody denigrates females, the more angry I get, and the more contempt I have for people who participate in that, in whatever form that comes in.
Oh, this must be why he just did that apology.
I don't know if there's a necessity or a point in just being like mean.
Here's
What
my
timing?
take on it is and I obviously I'm much softer generally, but like there's nothing he said that isn't true, but it accomplishes nothing.
Yeah,
all
by
it
being
does,
brutal.
it's just so mean that like it won't resonate and it won't change minds.
And I will absolutely say, yeah, it's mean. Yeah, Matt Walsh is being mean. I mean, come on. Matt Walsh insults Dylan Mulvaney as eerie, weird, and bizarre. You can get the point across without saying that.
The major divide on this video is whether or not the language was a little too harsh towards Dylan. You guys know me. You watch my show. You know how I talk about these issues. I am on the side of this being too harsh, and I know there are many who will disagree with me. But to me, there is no need for vitriol.
I mean, do you reckon he's into her? It sort of does look like the sort of thing somebody would say that when they're slightly obsessed with somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, factually, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Is he?
No.
Factually.
Yeah. I don't look. If your job is to win hearts and minds, I don't think this is the best way of doing it.
What if it's your job to get clicks online?
Again, but do clicks lead to changing of opinion?
No. I don't think he's trying to change anyone's opinion.
What do you think he's trying to do then?
He's trying to make people on his side feel like he's done something cool and said something that they think. I think.
Do you think that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not trying to change Dylan Mulvaney's mind, is he?
Yeah, I completely agree. I just look at that and just go. Even people on his own side were like, "Hold on a bit, mate."
Okay, so that
Why is it keep cutting out?
was Tim Pool, Jeremy from the YouTube channel The Quartering, Sydney Watson, Amala Ekpanobi from PragerU, and the guys from the podcast Trigonometry. Now, one thing I want to be clear about here is that I'm not mad at any of these people. There are no hard feelings. We can disagree and all that. It's fine. I could have done without the snideness and the lame cheap shot from the Trigonometry guys at the end, especially in the video where they're supposed to be lecturing me about the value of taking the high road.
Wow.
If you're going to do that, you can't start the video by insulting
There's your straight.
me, but we'll leave that to the
I'm
side.
just gonna
Instead, all I'd like to
see
do
what
is
you got.
address the overarching criticism one last time.
No, we both had the queen.
First, you'll notice the
You had the
connection
8, so you had this.
Okay, they all
there.
agree
Nice.
that I'm right, that what I said is factually
GG.
correct. But they think that it goes.
I'm obviously very occupied right now.
Mulvaney's the
Game,
one
guys.
running around like some cartoon of a woman.
I'll bring it
passing
back
out
up in a
tampons
second.
In the women's room and meeting with the president to
Get
defend the
something done
mutilation
here.
of children. But I went too far. Well, see, this is where we differ. Because in the culture war, I don't think it's possible to go too far by speaking the
not.
truth. The truth is the truth. It is what it is. It's the reality. Are we going to defend it or are we going to conceal it? Are we going to embrace it or are we going to hide from it? You can't have it both ways. When it comes to gender ideology, the truth is ugly. It is brutal and harsh and disgusting. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. I didn't make it that way. I didn't create the ugliness. I'm merely pointing to it and saying, look at this.
Way too preoccupied
Look at it for
right
what
now.
it is. But you would rather that I soften the blow a little bit, that I dress the truth up to make it prettier, more palatable. You want me to lie to protect the feelings of our enemies. And make no mistake, Dylan Mulvaney is our enemy. He is an open, visible, active, and passionate advocate for the abuse of children, the war on fundamental truth, and the destruction of human society as we know it. You wish to defeat this man in a manner that will not make him feel bad about himself, but I'm here to tell you that you are delusional. I'm not going to protect your feelings any more than I'll protect his. You are deluding yourself. We got into this position in our culture precisely by valuing politeness over truth. We got here by doing exactly as you would have me continue doing. And what you blame me for not doing. We got here by refusing to speak the plain truth and by allowing the anti-truth brigade
I don't know why it's cutting in and
to
out.
emotionally blackmail us into silence. They
Yeah, no news. He's driving around. He's still alive.
use their own mental fragility as a cudgel to beat us into
Why is this
submission.
cutting out so bad?
That's the threat, right?
This is his stream.
Because it rallies people to our side. It emboldens the troops. It lets people know that it's okay to speak up and to speak truthfully. You know, it's often said that that you shouldn't preach to the choir. That's basically what they were saying at the end of that clip there. Just pandering. He's pandering to his own audience. This is a message that's meant for his own audience. Well, God forbid I speak to my own audience on my podcast. No, preaching to the choir is a good thing. We need to do more of it. Because if the choir is demoralized and scared and cowering in silence, then you damn well better preach to them. What kind of congregation can you hope to have when even the choir is too afraid to sing? In our choir, those who agree with us, the many millions of them, have been cowed into submission. They are nervous. They are timid, like you. And then you come along and say that we should ignore them and instead tailor our message for a group that hates us and will hate us no matter what we say or do? This is not just morally wrong, it's also terrible strategy. Okay? It is a dumb strategy. In fact, it's exactly what the churches have done for decades. And it's why most of them are dying. They water down their preaching to appeal to the crowd, a crowd that isn't interested in the message, no matter how softly it's peddled. And while at best, because they did that, they bore to death and at worst actively alienate the very people who are actually sitting in the pews. So that's what the churches do. The people sitting in the pews who come to hear it, and then they give their preaching, which is designed to appeal to people who are outside the building and not even sitting there. But the people that are outside the building, they don't come in to hear any more of it. Instead, the people that were actually sitting there get up and leave. Conservatism has made the same mistake. And at what point do we learn the lessons that our own recent history seeks to teach us? Now, you say that we can't win hearts and minds by being nice. Because, by the way, I'm not saying that we're only preaching to the choir. That's not it. We also do want to convince people. But guess what? You don't convince people by being nice. You don't. At least not on a cultural level. I mean, where did you get this idea? Where did you arrive at this conclusion? That the way to win the culture is by being nice. Is that how the left won the culture? Have you been paying attention
Royal flush.
at all?
Yeah.
They have seized hold of our society, indoctrinating entire generations.
One in like 10,000
and they
hand.
didn't do it with niceness.
That sucks.
They didn't win these flies with honey. They did it by being bold and aggressive and by making their opposition's arguments seem not only wrong, but utterly horrific and insane. That's how they did it. See, it turns out that the tone of your argument is often more important than the substance of it. And the tone that actually wins the day on a cultural level is the one that is unwavering and which paints the opposition as so repulsive that you shouldn't even take their position into consideration. Now, the only difference is that they do that to us dishonestly, right? They make the truth seem insane. But what they're peddling actually is insane. We have allowed them to make the truth seem crazier than actual craziness. Okay? We take their ideas more seriously than they take ours, but their ideas are insane lunacy. And we lend them more legitimacy than they will lend to us when we are speaking the truth and they are babbling nonsense. You think this is a good strategy? What is the evidence that this strategy works? We moderate our tone. We seek to kill them with kindness, while they recruit legions by doing exactly the opposite. Again, I ask you, when will you learn? Now, finally, if you sense anger in the words that I use when discussing this topic, you're right. That is one crime I will confess to. I am angry. When I look at what these people have done to our country, the devastation they have wrought on a generation of children.
This is his. It's my connection is screaming.
The bleakness and ugliness of their worldview, the moral.
This is not even fun.
Intellectual chaos they leave in their wake. Yes, I get very angry. And when I consider that my own children must inherit this culture, that Dylan Mulvaney and his ilk will prey upon my children and try to turn my own sons and daughters into mutilated, mutant, self-loathing, hollow, twisted shells, just like themselves, well, my anger then turns into more of a boiling rage. And I know that I will do whatever is necessary. And I will speak whatever truths are necessary to protect my kids from this hellish, God-forsaken madness. Now, I have personally heard from many parents, more than I can count, who tell me versions of the same horror story. A beautiful and innocent kid, one day, seemingly out of nowhere, gets sucked into the gender cult and is devoured by it. The child they held as a baby and raised and gave their lives to and loved and still love becomes suddenly unrecognizable. All of their innocence and light and beauty just drained out of them, replaced by this self-cannibalizing madness. For a parent to see this happen to a child, it is a fate worse than death. I would rather be dead than have that happen to my kids. See, the thing that I most despise about Dylan Mulvaney is that he is part of a movement which actively seeks to turn my children into Dylan Mulvaney. That's why I'm entitled to my anger and to whatever language I use to convey it. I will say whatever I want to say, and I will be justified in saying it because these people are after my kids and yours and everyone else's. And you're worried that I'm being a little rude? Well, you see, when it comes to my children, the children that I cherish more than my own life, if you think mean words go too far, then you would be very shocked to hear how far I would really go to protect them. Trust me, words are the least of it. So yes, my words reflect anger because I am angry. But the problem is not that I'm angry. The problem is that you aren't nearly angry enough. And that is why the Be Nice conservatives are finally today canceled. I'll move over to the members block. If you're not a member yet, you can become a member and use code Walsh at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Hope to see you there. If not, talk to you tomorrow. Godspeed.
That would be why we just saw Jeremy apologize to him. All right, guys.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quartering, and well, look who has finally emerged from their hidey hole 18 full days after the incident that happened in East Palestine, Ohio, only after Donald Trump said he was going to go there, and only after Trump saying that forced FEMA to act, and only after the masses of viewers out there like you, people on Twitter, shared the story. Only then did Pete Buttigieg get off his rear end and go to a city, agree to go to a city. This guy
What?
gets absolutely zero credit for showing up. He should have been there day one. It is literally his job. Okay. President Biden going to Ukraine and just like
Ugh.
flying right over Ohio. Whoops, see you later, buddies. Oh gosh, I really told Air Force One to stop, but they told me no. Grr, curses. It's one of the biggest embarrassments for Democratic leadership and really bipartisan leadership that this country has seen in a long time. I mean, I suppose there's another disastrous outcome every other week with these idiots, but it's like, as somebody who considers themselves, fiscally conservative, maybe like on social issues more liberal than maybe even my viewers are. This is like, come on, guys, we can't reach across the aisle and help these people. Everything has to be politicized. Everything has to be about getting votes. These are citizens that are, I reported on yesterday, have some, people are having sore throats and rashes and all this kind of stuff. But no, Pete Buttigieg didn't want to show up to do his dang job because it would have made the president look bad. Because Joe Biden is too busy having 2 scoops of ice cream on his cones and flying to Ukraine for his little buddy that's going to suck us into World War III. Geez, I wonder if Ukraine has some sort of photographs of his son or some sort of damaging evidence that is making Joe Biden act like this guy's got him by the short and curlies. Gee, I wonder. I mean, I can't know for sure, but it sure seems suspicious. This guy has, the most powerful country in the world, tip, tap dancing and bending over backwards to meet his every need. Now, defensive Pete Buttigieg says he'll finally go to Ohio toxic train site 18 days after, then has the absolute unmitigated gall to claim that Trump's visit tomorrow is just a photo op, as East Palestine mayor calls Biden's Kiev trip the biggest slap in the face. Of course it is. It's absolutely absurd that it would be portrayed any way else. This is one, I'm just a simple man politically. I don't know everything about foreign policy, all this stuff.
I'm probably going to kill this,
It's
guys.
not something
I got
that, is in
to
my
going off here at work.
However,
I apologize
what
for
I
my
will say
inattentiveness
is
this last hour and a half.
just a
Just
simple
about.
man's position. It's like, gosh, we have like,
If I don't get this
millions
done,
of
I'm going to
homeless
miss out
people
on
in
some
this
big
country,
money.
Millions of people who are addicted to pills, millions of people that are living below the poverty line, but we have trillions of dollars to send to the country where your son worked for a power company, for a job that he had absolutely
Apologize.
no qualifications.
Thanks
to
for
have.
hanging out, everybody who did.
Sometimes things are
I gotta
just
kill
that
it.
simple. And I'm really starting to think this whole thing.
Fuck. Sorry, guys. I'll be back later. I set up a game for 11:15, I think, tonight, Eastern time. So it's posted now. People can go in and out as they want. Of course, if FIC wants to start one before that, that's cool too. I haven't heard from him today. He hasn't popped in. But yeah, we're going to head out. Get some work done. Good luck to the guys still playing. Play a little bit of outro music here. Peace.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build